City Council meeting for Wednesday, February 3rd, 2021. Good evening, community and council members, and thank you for joining us this evening. As we begin our council meeting, I will ask, please, that our city clerk call the roll.
Councilmember Sanchez?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Ibarra?
Here.
Councilmember Figueroa?
Here.
Councilmember Charette?
Here.
Councilmember Reynoso?
Here.
Councilmember Calvin?
Here.
Member Alexander?
Here.
And Mayor Valdivia.
Here. Thank you very much, Ms. City Clerk. This time I will ask Councilmember Ben Reynoso, please, if you would, lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance tonight. We'll all stand. Thank you.
Place your right hand over your heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much, Councilman. Appreciate that. Ms. City Attorney, is there anything to report from our closed session?
Mayor, council members, and members of the public, we had one closed session item this evening, but we do not have any reportable action.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Ms. City Attorney. At this time, we'll turn it over to our City Manager for his report. Mr. City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor, and good evening, Mayor and City Council. Rob Field, City Manager. A few brief remarks to kick off the meeting, but before I get into that, I would like to make one quick introduction, something we've been looking forward to for quite some time. We have a new staff member here, a new manager, the finance director, actually. Her name is Barbara Whitehorn. I'd like to ask her just to make a few very brief remarks of introduction. But I will say that, and I think I've mentioned this to most of you at one point or another, how exciting it is to have the seat filled. It's one of those absolute most important roles in city government. So really happy to have her here. And Barbara, please take it away.
Hi, thank you. Gosh, I don't have that much to say, but I'm really excited to be here. So excited to be joining a city that is in a position to really do great things. I think San Bernardino's in this unique position to really rebuild and become something inspiring in the future, and to be part of the team that gets to do that is, I think, one of the most exciting things I've gotten to do in my career. So I find it to be just really inspiring to get to be here for that. So thank you for giving me that opportunity, and I look forward to working with all of you.
Thank you, Barbara. And again, welcome. She comes to us, actually, her last position was across the country. It was in Asheville, North Carolina. So pretty big, we cast a very broad net. And so again, welcome, Barbara. So tonight, just a few things to discuss. I want to start off by saying this, that the theme tonight for me is the value of partnerships. Every one of these updates is a reflection of various partnerships the city has forged over time that are bringing all kinds of benefits to the city, to our residents. First, in the transportation world, I want to talk a little bit about some street improvement projects that are being pursued by the County of San Bernardino up near Verdemont, sort of straddling the freeway area, so benefiting both wards 5 and 6. The county is improving Verdemont Ranch Road, Institution Road from Verdemont Ranch Road to Palm Avenue. This is it's another one of those things that's just going to improve the ability of our residents to get from point A to point B, an important thing in an area that really needs to have some significant improvements. Mount Vernon Bridge, partnership with SBCTA. I got to say this about SBCTA: they don't mess around. They contracted for this, and they didn't contract and start shutting down the bridge early. They did it, and then a couple days later, they started turning it down. So the first steps of demolition have already started. So I want to extend my gratitude to SBCTA for taking that on. Another project, another transportation-related project, the median on Palm. was in the process of being completed. Last time we talked about it, well, it's now complete, and that is a project that was paid for partly by the city and partly by 3 of our partner water districts. So a significant improvement, upgrade, both aesthetic and functional. Also in the public works world, partnership with Burtech Waste Industries. We have a number of community dump days happening this year. The next one is going to happen on February 27th, and it will be held at San Manuel Stadium. The dump days are being scheduled for different portions of the city every month, and so look forward to continuing that partnership with Burtech. The violence intervention program is continuing to function. I mean, even in the face of COVID, it's a challenge. But I should tell you that they are really busy. They have been doing a lot of individual referrals, doing some job placement. Over 260 people served to date through that program. It's a partnership between San Bernardino Unified School District, Youth Court, of course, our own police department. And in spite of the uptick in violence, it's very clear that the work that they're doing, and we discussed this previously when Chief McBride made his statements on what's going on, that the VIP program at least is functional. It's the crime that we're experiencing now is mostly sort of crimes of opportunity, but VIP is doing a very, very good job, and David Miranda and his team deserve a lot of credit. The library's partnership is with San Bernardino Unified School District, working on family literacy and distributing books, primarily focused on preschool, transitional kindergarten, and kindergarten kids, distributing books and school supplies and activity sheets and all kinds of other information, book bags. That is making it just a little bit easier to get through this the pandemic, which is, hopefully we're starting to see that wane a little bit, but there's the need to have the types of services that the library is providing has not waned. It is increasing, and we're lucky and glad to have such an active, a small but mighty staff in the library system. Animal services. Can't seem to be able to get past a meeting without talking about Chris Watson and her small but mighty team. We were invited, I think partly as a result of Chris's work and her team's work in terms of establishing essentially no-kill status. The San Manuel Band of Mission Indians is so excited that they've asked us to apply for it, and we did apply for $1.5 million in grants. It'll be a 3-year program, $500,000 a year, I think. But if we can successfully bring that money in to support our animal services division, I mean, that's a game changer, folks. It's going to make a huge difference for us. And then a couple other things. I mean, San Manuel is they're having a pretty good run. Some of you may have seen that their new casino, hotel, and resort expansion was featured in Forbes magazine. It was ranked as one of the 35 most anticipated hotel openings in the world, not in the United States, but in the world for this year. And so, congratulations to them for getting that kind of attention. That's a really in the hospitality industry. That is an enormous honor to be recognized for that. And San Manuel also did something really kind of special. They didn't have to do this. They did it out of their own, out of the goodness of their hearts. It showed a lot of generosity to local small businesses, who of course are suffering terribly through the pandemic. There are 50 businesses around the county who were offered up $20,000 a piece to help, again, to bridge the gap between now and a more robust reopening. And 7 of those businesses were right here in San Bernardino. Several restaurants, a flower shop, and a beauty salon. So we want to recognize San Manuel for that as well. Their generosity is really is both symbolically but also practically providing a huge amount of help and hope to people throughout the county, but especially here in San Bernardino. And that pretty much wraps up my report, Mr. Mayor and City Council. And so thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Field. We appreciate that. And welcome aboard, Barbara, from our finance team. We're excited to have you here in our city, and we wish you much success here at our city. This time, we'll move on to our appointments process. We have 2 individuals tonight, Miss Jennifer Exara and Jesus Flores from the 5th Ward. These are Councilmember Ben Reynoso's appointments, and we'll open it up for a motion. I'll entertain a motion, please.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, very good. Thank you, sir. And Ms. City Clerk, if you'd please call the roll.
Councilmember Sanchez,
Yes.
Councilmember Ibarra, I'm sorry, Mayor Pro Tem Ibarra,
Yes.
Councilmember Figueroa,
Yes.
Councilmember Charette,
Yes.
Councilmember Reynoso,
Yes.
Councilmember Calvin,
Yes.
Councilmember Alexander.
Aye.
The motion passes unanimously.
Okay, thank you very much. We want to encourage these individuals to please, first off, congratulations to you. And at a later time, our city clerk, if you make an appointment with our city clerk, and we'll swear you in and sign all those documents. And once again, thank you, commissioners, and congratulations to you. Moving on to item number 4 is our Southern California Edison Wildlife Mitigation Plan, and I'll turn it over to Mr. City Manager.
Yes, thank you. Actually, the presentation tonight will be coming from Mark Cloud from Edison. I want to thank him for agreeing to come in and give us a quick update on what is going on in the world of, well, there's a lot of stuff going on with Edison, but a lot of it, in particular with the public safety power shutoffs. I think we're going to hear a little bit about that. So if we could turn things over to Mr. Cloud and see his presentation, please. Thank you.
Okay, Mark, are you there? Mark Cloud, Southern California Edison. If you're calling in, *6, I believe it is, to unmute your line. I see that he's logged in. Mark Cloud, trying to get unmuted.
Mayor, he looks unmuted on my end.
Mark, are you there? Are you calling in? Well, we don't hear you. We see that you're logged in, so why don't we do this? We'll wait on Mark Cloud, and let's go to item number 5, which is Eviction Prevention Program. And Mr. City Manager, please go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. So this portion of the discussion will be led by Mike Huntley. ED is the group that is receiving and is responsible for dispersing that grant, pretty significant amount of money. So Mike, if you would, please give an update.
Thanks, Rob. Actually, our city's housing division has been putting together a public service announcement. The housing division would like to get the information out on the street. So what they've done is they've worked and put together 2 public service announcements, one both in English, one in Spanish. What I'd like to do is just play those. So if I can have Mitch play both. Then after that, I have Gretel Noble with us, and she can answer any questions about the program. So, Mitch?
It'll be a moment. I wasn't aware that we were going to be playing those. Okay. Okay, and let me do a share. Share screen, the sound. Okay.
Thanks. Thanks, Mitch.
Hello, this is Maria Gallegos from the City of San Bernardino Community and Economic Development Department. If you rent an apartment or home within the city, you may be eligible to receive a one-time rental assistance under the city's eviction prevention program. Eligible households can receive assistance to cover past due rents, and funds are paid directly to the landlord. To receive eligibility, you will need a form of identification, a copy of your lease agreement, proof of income of all family members dated within 60 days to ensure low-income assistance, a documentation demonstrating a COVID-19 related impact, either through work layoffs or health concerns, and a notice of rent arrears or demand letter or invoice from your landlord. After checking your eligibility, fill out the application online at sbcity.org/eviction prevention. Once filled out, be sure to upload your eligibility documentation and attach them with your application. Information contained in this application will be provided to the Housing Authority of the County of San Bernardino for processing and will be kept confidential. For more information and answers to your frequently asked questions, please visit sbcity.org/eviction prevention. Again, this is Maria Gallegos with the City of San Bernardino Community and Economic Development Department. We hope to assist you during these difficult times, and thank you for listening. Hola, soy María Gallegos de la ciudad de San Bernardino con el Departamento de Comunidad y Servicios de Desarrollo Económico. Si usted es un inquilino de un apartamento o casa dentro de la ciudad, usted puede ser elegible para recibir una asistencia de alquiler de una sola vez bajo el programa de prevención de desalojos de la ciudad. Los hogares elegibles pueden recibir asistencia para cubrir alquileres vencidos y los fondos se pagan directamente al propietario. Para recibir elegibilidad, necesitará lo siguiente: una forma de identificación, una copia de su contrato de arrendamiento, prueba de ingresos de todos los miembros de la familia con fecha de 60 días para asegurar la asistencia de bajos ingresos, una documentación que demuestre un impacto relacionado con COVID-19, ya sea a través de despidos de trabajo o problemas de salud, y un aviso de atrasos de alquiler, carta de demanda o factura de su propietario. Después de verificar su elegibilidad, llene la solicitud en línea en la página sbcity.org/eviction prevention. Una vez que llene la aplicación, asegúrese de cargar su documentación de elegibilidad y adjuntarlas con su solicitud. La información contenida en esta solicitud se proporcionará a la Autoridad de Vivienda del Condado de San Bernardino para su procesamiento y se mantendrá confidencial. Para obtener más información y respuestas a sus preguntas frecuentes, visite la página sbcity.org/eviction prevention. Una vez más, soy María Gallegos de la ciudad de San Bernardino con el Departamento de Comunidad y Servicios de Desarrollo Económico. Esperamos ayudarle en estos tiempos difíciles y gracias por escuchar.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll open it up for any quick questions or comments. Councilmember, go ahead.
Talking to me or Mayor Pro Tem?
Sandra, go ahead.
Just real quick, I'm just trying to get an ETA from our staff when the application will be translated into Spanish for the Spanish-speaking audience that we have. I know I had sent an email.
Yes, and you received a response. We will not be translating the application because under this program, which is the CDBG CV3 program, we would need to have budgeted for translation services. That would have to wait for the additional dollars we may receive under we're receiving under the U.S. Treasury.
Okay, because I had received 2 contradictory emails. Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Reynoso, go ahead, sir.
First, I know this is the question regarding this, but I got to say I'm a little disappointed. We got on this council meeting and no one said anything. I know it's a short month and it's easy to skip over, but it's Black History Month. And so there are council members on this dais that are a direct translation of civil rights action that has happened. My ancestry, we're wildest dreams. All right. So I'm sad about that. I think council members need a portion in the beginning, but that's a side note. My question is, when it comes to documentation regarding COVID, I'm very familiar from the outside, before I was sworn in, of warehouse workers, most predominantly warehouse workers, that they had a lot of trouble getting documentation, even though there were signs of COVID within their warehouses and things like that. We are a warehouse empire. What kind of assistance do these people, or are they eligible for, if they don't have documentation, but they've taken the liberty to protect their families by leaving? Because they know there's been COVID, but it hasn't been necessarily. I know it's on the workplace to get that, but on the city side, if we understand that, is there any kind of way that they can get that assistance still?
The CDBG program requires documentation. So we have had situations like that, and our HUD office has said that it would need to be something related to their being ill. So if they had documentation that, yes, they actually had COVID, that would work. But for households, let's say for someone who decided they had to leave the job because they didn't feel safe, that would not be an allowable reason under the CDBG guidelines to provide assistance.
Thank you. Sandra, I'm sorry.
sorry.
That answered my other question, or asked it.
Are you through? Are you complete, Councilmember Reynoso?
Go ahead.
All right. And I'm just hold on, Councilmember, just a moment. Please go through the chair, and I don't know what hand motions are, so you'll need to recognize yourself through the chair, please. It's tough to manage all of the dashboard here, so I ask that council members please address the chairman. Thank you. Councilmember Calvin, go ahead.
Yes, so as a member of the ICH steering committee, we were speaking about San Bernardino, these funds that we have received, and today there was a lot of informative information being shared. One was that I believe we've received maybe 900 applications, and we aren't being able to service as many residents as we would actually like. There may be some areas of difficulty. I was told that there were a lot of applications that were just incomplete, and a lot of the other organizations that were online with us today were sharing that they're having to go a little step further with those applications that are being submitted and incomplete, that if they do have an email address listed or a phone number, that maybe we can give them a call to see what took place. What didn't you complete the application? Because we definitely aren't servicing as many of our city residents as we need to with these funds, and they do have a time limit that we have to use these funds, or otherwise we have to give these funds back. So I was wondering, and what other things are we going to do in order to get the information out besides our website? And are we willing to collaborate with any of the other CBOs that are out there who would definitely love to assist us in getting the funds to where they need to go?
So we have collaborated with several organizations in the city, including Fair Housing and other nonprofits. We've posted on several sites. It's on the city's social media platforms. And tomorrow I'll be doing a radio interview on one of the radio stations. I think it's KCAA on the program. So we're doing that. We've sent out mailers to all landlords in the city who have been registered with the city to provide them information so they can pass that on to their tenants and assist them as much as they can. So we're doing that type of work. And once we have the funds from the U.S. Treasury, we hope to be able to do a larger campaign as far as exposure and promoting the program.
Right now, we're just partnering with Housing Authority, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And the Housing Authority is totally. Are they responsible for the application once it's received, or do you push that on?
They are responsible for processing the applications.
Okay. So they would then they would be the ones responsible to contact the applicant if they have the incomplete application.
They are doing that. They send them a notification verifying that the application has been received. Once the application is reviewed, they send out written correspondence and an email letting them know what additional documentation may be needed. if the call comes to me, then I forward the name and phone number and email address to the Housing Authority staff, and then they reach out.
Okay. So in the future, though, we may want to sit down. I'm sorry, who did you tell you we're meeting with tomorrow? You said you had a meeting tomorrow?
I don't think I did.
I'm sorry. Okay, you were reaching out to someone tomorrow. I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Was that the interview,
Tomorrow
Gretel?
I have a radio interview.
Oh, radio interview. I'm sorry. Okay. Okay. So I would just like to see us going forward, see where we can reach out to some of the CBOs in our area to assist us with getting these dollars out, because we definitely do not want to have these dollars to have to return back to the state.
Yes.
Mr. City Manager, you had your hand up, sir. Go ahead.
Yes, Councilmember Calvin, your points are extremely well taken. Matter of fact, we've had a couple of discussions internally to that exact effect. I share your concern. It's a lot of money to get out in a fairly, the time constraints that have been imposed through a lot of the different COVID-related funding programs have been extremely tight, and we don't want to send money back.
Right.
Some of the, in some instances, there's been some relief provided in terms of additional time being made available to do disbursements. But we are actively looking for CBO, NGO type partners to help us. We just don't have, we can't have the capacity, probably shouldn't actually have the capacity to manage that much money, because it's a near-term, relatively short-term program. So Mr. Utley, Ms. Noble, and I have been discussing that very issue, and we will hopefully bring something back to you very soon. But of course, Councilmember, if you have suggestions for us, we are more than open to hearing those suggestions. So
Definitely. I'll reach out tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right. Are there any final questions?
Figueroa, comment or question?
Councilman, go ahead.
Thank you. Occasionally, there might be a situation where a family is relying on other resources, community resources such as CalFresh or Medi-Cal. Would this in any way negatively impact their eligibility, or do we know if this is some type of reportable income that would negatively impact their other resources that they might be receiving?
No, it would not. So that does not impact their eligibility, and neither does resident status.
Okay, thank you very much. At this time, let's move back to our Southern California. Thank you, staff, for that
Thanks, Gretel.
presentation. We appreciate it. Let's go back to Mark Cloud. I believe Mark's ready for us, and let's go ahead and put up the Edison PowerPoint presentation for Wildlife Mitigation Plan. And the floor is yours, sir. Mark Cloud.
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Oh, great. That's fantastic. Sorry, I got multiple screens up and I was trying to fiddle through which one was going to work. Okay. So thanks for pausing a little bit to let me come back and give this quick presentation. This is mainly a review for most of you, and for some of you, our new council members, congratulations on winning your seats. Some of this will be new information for you, but it's important because a portion of San Bernardino and the San Bernardino area is in high fire risk area, which is where we are focusing a lot of our resources right now to mitigate the wildfire risk. All right, so let's go quickly through this slideshow because I don't have much time. So establishing the fact that California's wildfire problem is serious and it's getting worse. So 10 of the most destructive wildfires have happened in California since 2015. There are a lot of reasons for that, and I can't get into all of them right now, but one of them is vegetation management, over-vegetation in the foothills of mountains, and things like that. Getting dense housing perhaps into the foothill areas like we're seeing now throughout the Inland Empire. One thing that contributes to wildfire risk in California is the electric utility infrastructure, which is our responsibility. So this is why we are taking this. We've always taken wildfire risk very seriously, but because of these new drier conditions and other factors, we're taking it much more seriously now these days. And so I'm going to go through quickly what we're doing to mitigate wildfire risk in Southern California. There's three main buckets. Let's go on to the next slide. Three main buckets that we're pouring resources and time into and effort into: bolstering situational awareness capabilities, enhancing operational practices, and hardening the electric grid. Hardening the electric grid basically just means fireproofing our infrastructure, and there's a few ways we do that. Let's move on to the next slide. So one of the ways that we're getting better information out there is through our new high-def wide-ranging, kind of eagle-eyed, if you will, cameras that we're installing throughout our service territory. And we're putting them up in high places throughout the Southern California area. And so it gives us really good visual data, particularly when it comes to smoke patterns, about what's happening throughout Southern California. And we can see smoke billowing up from many, many miles away. And we make those cameras open to the public, actually. They're open source. And of course, our wildfire agencies are really glad that we have those now because they're using them too. We have nearly 1,000 weather stations installed now. These weather stations we're collecting just thousands and thousands of data points of information around the weather. And this is important because this is one of the driving factors behind wildfire growth in California is the weather. How dry are the conditions? How strong is the wind blowing, et cetera. And with those weather stations, we can actually port all that data into our NERV center, which is in Irwindale. Whenever we can get back into seeing you all in public or in person, I'd love to give you a tour of that place. So we have in-house fire and weather experts now, meteorologists, and we also have a supercomputer. And we're taking all that data, crunching it through the supercomputer. I don't know how any of it works, frankly. It's above my pay grade, but we have experts on staff who are now crunching that data, and they are in turn helping us to make decisions, both long-term projections, long-term planning decisions, but also real-time decisions around where to deploy resources like, let's say, wood replacement poles and wire when we anticipate maybe a particular area might in fact encounter a burn. And of course, our infrastructure always gets burned up in wildfires whenever there's other structures nearby. So we take it very seriously, and resource deployment is really important to us. But that actually, I want to let's go on to the next slide real quick. I'm gonna skip right now. I'm gonna go to vegetation management. I'm gonna go back to this discussion about why data is important. So, but one of the other areas of important work for us is vegetation management. As I mentioned, we are taking, we're spending a lot of money, both in-house and on third-party contractors, to help us remove brush from around our infrastructure. And some of that is in the San Bernardino mountain communities, and some of that is down in the lower lying areas like the foothills, where there's a lot of brush. And so we're working also with private landowners, homeowners, and we're helping them to trim or cut back their trees at no cost to them. And we're doing that because, frankly, every little bit of vegetation management will help us to reduce wildfire risk. Okay, let's go on to the next slide. Undergrounding, this question gets asked a lot. Why don't we just underground everything? There's a few reasons, key reasons why we don't underground everything, and you can probably guess what that reason might be. The cost is staggering when compared to above ground infrastructure. Plus, it's harder to get to and maintain. Obviously, it has benefits like better aesthetics, but it also has the advantage of being not completely immune, but much more immune to wind and falling debris, like palm fronds, for example, that are on fire. It's far more immune to those kinds of things than is the above ground utility infrastructure. So we recognize that, but we can't do it everywhere. We are, however, now doing more undergrounding in starting off in our high fire risk areas like the mountains. So you're going to see more and more undergrounding as time goes by, and it's going to be starting and be primarily focused in the high fire risk areas. All right, let's go on to the next one. The reason why data is important is because it connects to this next slide in this protocol, public safety power shutoff. You probably all heard about this by now. It's been all over the news and the social media. It's called PSPS for short. It's something that we've done before, but it's become an official protocol now as of 2018, I believe is when it started. When the wildfire season started in 2018, we rolled it out. And now it's official throughout the state. All the other utilities are doing this, the state utilities. This is a protocol where we take all that data I mentioned earlier, all that weather data, all the climate data, the wind data, and we're taking that and we're crunching it, and we're relying on our experts to help synthesize the information to then give us on the ground, those of us who operate, the grid on the ground, not me, but folks who maybe operate the circuits, for example, in the substations and things, they give direction down to those groups, to those members of our company, to make a really good and informed decisions around where to de-energize circuits. And that's what this whole thing is. This PSPS thing is a preempted circuit shutdown only in areas where we think the risks are incredibly high for fire. Now, more people are going to be receiving the notices that there will be a potential PSPS shutoff than will actually see the shutoff take place. And we're learning a lot as we do this. We've been doing it for, about a year and a half now. And so we've learned a lot about how to roll this out, and we're learning more all the time. So we're not perfect at it yet, but we are going to get much better at it in terms of communication and getting more surgical with our shutoffs. So, and that would mean in real terms, de-energizing one small portion of a circuit rather than the entire circuit. So that is, in a nutshell, what we're doing to prevent wildfire. I'd love to come back at another time to give a longer presentation if you'd like, or speak with any of you individually on the phone or in any other way to give you more information about what we're doing. So that is what we are doing by and large to reduce wildfire risk in California. Thank you so much for giving me a chance to let you know about this tonight.
Thank you very much, Mark. We appreciate your presentation. Some of the concerns that I have as mayor is the business corridor, and a lot of the senior citizens that have had major incidents with the oxygen machines and medical equipment at home. What assurances can you provide the community that the business corridor, how do you assess and analyze that, and walk us through that, the power grid shutoff?
Sure. So most of the time, a lot of this work that I've mentioned tonight, including the PSPS shutoffs, these are largely focused on high fire risk areas. And when we say high fire risk area, we're relying on a couple of different authoritative maps that everyone else is relying on as well, including CAL FIRE's high fire risk map, and then the California Public Utilities Commission high fire risk map, which they essentially overlap each other. But we rely on those maps to help us identify where exactly these resources and activities should be focused. And so when it comes to like the business corridors and business districts in a lot of our cities, they are not as nearly at risk as some of the residences are, or residential customers are, because you'll see, of course, more homes, more residences in the high fire risk areas than you will businesses typically. Businesses are often, like you said, they're kind of centered along a corridor or in an area, maybe it's a strip mall. And a lot of times those strip malls and stuff, they're typically surrounded by concrete, which puts them at less risk. So it does affect businesses, but not nearly as much as it affects residential customers. So that should become some relief to our business customers throughout our service territory. When it comes to folks who rely on medical devices like oxygen machines or sleep apnea machines, we take this very, very seriously, and we have identified many folks in our customer base who have those machines. They self-identify, and we rely on communities to help us identify where these people live and who they are, so that they can be placed on our customer care list. And it's a special list that focuses exclusively on people who rely on medical devices. And when there is a disaster of really any kind, it could be wildfire or anything else, and it involves, de-energizations or work on our part, what we do is we prioritize the people on that list so that they know what's going on. In fact, we'll take it to the point where we will work with local authorities, law enforcement, et cetera, to go at some point, if we haven't received confirmation from the people on that list that they have in fact received the warning, and in this case, we're talking about, let's say, PSPS, if they haven't confirmed that they've received, or we haven't gotten confirmation that they understand that there's a PSPS activation being planned, we will go so far as to go door to door if we have to. We've done it before, and we'll, of course, do it again. So we take that particular class of customer very seriously, and we have resources in place to not only protect them to the greatest extent of our ability during disaster, but also to give them better rates on their utility bills. So folks, if they're interested in signing up for that, if they think that they should be on that list, but they're not, or if you're listening in and you have a relative, an elderly neighbor who should be on that list and they're an Edison customer, they should go to our website, sce.com, and apply to or register to be on this customer care list.
Is that the medical baseline allowance, or is that a different form?
Yeah, medical baseline allowance is the discount for folks who use the who use those devices, and then it's actually called critical care list. That is the list that is so they're two separate lists, but they're related. The critical care list is the one that we keep so that we know exactly where these folks are when an emergency happens. And so it's an easy sign-up form. It's if you're interested in both, it's the critical care list and the medical baseline list. If you go to our website, you'll find both of those.
Councilman Charette.
Thank you. I have a constituent asking me to ask, how does the public contact Edison through an email or text number or something in order to supply or send pictures of vegetation that needs attention? How's the best way for them to get that information to the appropriate people at Edison to get that particular issue solved in that area?
Yeah, so believe it or not, the best number is our 800 number, and that's because, and I know people, sometimes we roll our eyes when we hear 800 numbers, but believe me, this is a good one. This number will route you to people at the local district level who can actually go out and take care of local matters like coming out to take care of a vegetation problem. So, and so in this case of San Bernardino, your district office is in Redlands off Tennessee. And so the call that gets routed from our 800 number will go to the folks over in our Redlands office, and they will dispatch in this case, vegetation folks to go out and either trim it ourselves, or we'll have one of our contractors go out to do it. So I'm going to say that number right now slowly, so if anyone's listening, they can take it down. It's 1-800-655-4555. Again, 1-800-655-4555. And that should be, whoever picks up the phone should be able to take, help that customer out at the local level.
Okay, Mark, thank you. I happen to have just called that number this morning on a personal issue, and it does work, but I believe it is a menu, a voice menu, and so you'll have to listen through it to determine which number to push to get the department that you want. I think actually they'll allow you to push 0 and get an operator, get a live voice. So
yes, you can do that.
Yeah, you can. Okay, so you could push. But so you're saying that there is no particular email where a photo or an email could be sent directly to somebody?
Not that I'm aware of, Councilman, but I can find out and get that information to you. It's a good question. I've never been asked that before, but I can find out. The other place that folks might want to go for more information about PSPS, including real-time information like a real-time outage map for PSPS outages, is sce.com/PSPS. A lot of acronyms, forgive me, but that is the best place to go in real time when folks are worried that they might be in an activation, a PSPS activation.
Well, this question, I think I understand that. That's great, but this is more preventative. So to get ahead of the problem and make you aware, I'm sure it's difficult for you to cover every mile or foot of a large territory, and so the public can be very helpful in getting information to you on where a vegetation issue might exist. So that was the purpose of the question, for prevention. So thank you, Mark.
Councilman Reynoso.
Hi, Mark. I'm sure you've heard from my constituents. I'm responsible for the north end. We're in that high fire risk zone. And
yes, sir.
The biggest concerns are obvious. Well, first, most people are very aware and have gone to the Public Utilities Commission of California, because we're very aware of how in the state, your breakers, you essentially have a pretty strong monopoly. It's not you, but you're responsible for electricity in this area. And so you're talking about coming to the mountains. I'm asking, how feasible is it and how fast can you move on making the north end underground? Because people are not getting notified. And now that you are starting to practice it, it comes within an hour and people have full refrigerators full of groceries. I've got friends who contacted me directly who are spending time with other people because their power doesn't come on for up to 14, 16 hours. And so I want to know what your strategy is for handling that. Or do you just plan on kind of just fielding calls?
So it's a great question. And I think you're asking about like long-term infrastructure plus operational strategies around limiting the impacts of PSPS.
Yeah.
Is that okay? So let's first talk about speed for undergrounding. I wish I could say that undergrounding our infrastructure we could do very quickly, but the real answer is it takes there's no, I couldn't give you an average time, but it's not going to happen quickly, but it will happen steadily. And that's because of all that goes into tearing up a road and burying above ground infrastructure. You can imagine the work and planning that goes into it. So it won't happen quickly, but it will happen in those high fire risk areas first. And then the other thing that we'll be doing is, as I mentioned earlier, getting better at doing surgical outages. The folks that you have, your constituents, they called, they said they were out for many, many hours. It's one of the things that weighs heavy on all of us at SCE these days. And of course, the utility industry never really had to grapple with wildfire trouble like we are now. So we're now encountering these issues where we're shutting people off for several hours in these areas. And it's a huge inconvenience. So it really keeps us up at night. It's something that bothers us, frankly, that is this unfortunate necessity of having to de-energize to completely prevent wildfire from spreading in a particular area. Having said that, we know that this is a big inconvenience and a big trouble for folks on the reliability side. So what we're doing is, from an infrastructure standpoint, yes, we will be undergrounding more, and that will help, but we will also be applying new technology to our infrastructure in those areas, and that infrastructure will help us to actually be more surgical when it comes to de-energizing a circuit. So you can probably appreciate that the grid is very, very old, and it's it's been around in America for well over 100 years now, and so scaling or rolling out technology that will help us to make surgical strikes on our circuits takes a little while to scale. So we are working on this technology, though, and we're implementing it, and it's something that we are very much working on because we know that if we can make the circuits or if impact a portion of a circuit rather than an entire circuit, then we can obviously be sure that our customers will be in a better place during these outages, or more customers will remain in power even during emergency situations. So operationally and as far as infrastructure goes, we are going to and are now and will into the future over the next, I'm sure, 5 to 10 years, be building on infrastructure that will let us reroute power more efficiently and also be more surgical with the outages. So hopefully the end result will be fewer customers impacted. It was a long answer, and I hope it answered your question.
So forgive me, I like specifics and just a yes or no on this next question. Is the north end of San Bernardino being considered for these underground infrastructure updates?
I couldn't give you a yes or no. I'd have to check on that, but I could certainly find out and report back to you. I have to check with the district. But yeah, I'll do that. You got it, Councilman.
Thanks. That's all for me.
Okay.
Councilmember Kelvin.
Hey, Mark, how you doing?
Hey, good.
Good. So I noticed that you all had went up to Cal State and SC&E kind of handed out some rations, like a gift bag, some type of bag, right, with some essentials in them, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, that's wonderful. Thank you. But we appreciate that. But I was also wondering, are SC&E customers able to apply for a reimbursement with the amount of times that their electricity is going off? The frequency is, it's happening often. Is there any type of reimbursement for families who are losing, refrigerators full of food and items that they're not able to preserve each time that the services go off?
That's a great question, Councilwoman. And the answer is customers are, we always encourage folks who feel like they have a good claim to file. We encourage them to go through our claims process. And I can make that information available to the council if you'd like to get it to your constituents. That's the only way we can process those kinds of requests, is requests for monies that might be applied to spoiled food, or let's say a television set or an alarm clock that was fried because it came back on, the power came back on suddenly. The only way we can consider those is through our claims process, but there is that process available. So the answer is yes, but it's they do have to go through that process, and there's a few steps to go through.
Okay, and one more thing. So the customers that you mentioned that were on oxygen or CPAP machines, are they able to be given some type of a generator or something so that they don't have to be without or have to, go to someone else's house in order to utilize, their necessary equipment?
That's another great question, and I'm happy to say we have finally put together it's essentially a rebate program, a discounted generator program where we've hand-selected some generators that you can buy on our website, and they're at a discounted rate. And so what I can do is, Councilwoman, and to the rest of the council, I can send you a link to that. I don't know the URL off the top, but I can send you a link to it. And basically, it's for our customers to get a discounted generator. It's essentially, it's the same thing as like a rebate. It's an instant rebate bought through our online, this online portal. We can't cover the entire cost of a generator, but certainly we can help lessen the cost.
Okay. Thank you, Mark. I appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Mayor, question.
Go ahead, Councilman.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you so much. I think there tends to be a kind of like a lack of understanding as far as how rates are determined or how it's kind of spread across, different accounts. I know that Edison is under the obligation to keep rates as low as possible. And I think about other utilities like water, for example, where they have an elevation zone where you have some type of a different rate depending on how high you are, how low you are. As far as undergrounding, are those zones where they receive a different rate, or are these kind of expenses shared across all different accounts, regardless of where you live? So if one area or one city has undergrounding, is that cost shared across all different accounts, or is it just specific to that zone that has that cost?
That's a great question, Councilman. All of our costs are socialized across our entire customer base. So when we put in a power line in San Bernardino of any shape or size or cost, that cost is shared by all of our ratepayers across our entire service system. And we have more than 5 million meters. So the good news there is all those costs are spread out evenly across our service sector. And obviously that makes it more affordable for each city. So, if we're putting something in Huntington Beach, people in San Bernardino will help pay for it. And the inverse is true. If we're doing work in San Bernardino, then Huntington Beach folks will be paying for it as well.
No more questions.
Mark? Okay, thank you. Councilman Alexander, sir, you're recognized. Go ahead.
Mark, thank you for coming on. Question that the city of San Bernardino might be having some major developments here coming up. Are you going to be partnering with us as far as, undergrounding your systems within the city?
So it's a great question. We do work with developers and cities to underground infrastructure, and that's typically done through this framework that is managed by the California Public Utilities Commission, and it's called Rule 20 A, B, and C, depending on what kind of infrastructure you're undergrounding, et cetera, and what kind of payment arrangement comes up. And I'd be happy to get you more information on that. That is a very case-by-case thing. But yes, we do work with cities and developers to underground infrastructure. It's expensive to do it, and so a lot of cities typically only underground the most visible parts. let's say infrastructure that is present at a major intersection, for example. But it's done, and the California Public Utilities Commission actually allocates a certain amount of money to every city in our service territory to underground that infrastructure. So I'd be happy to meet with you and city staff to go over that, but it is a case-by-case thing, but it is possible, yes.
Thank you. I just want to make sure that if our future developments come under the old structures and development and power lines and stuff like that don't get mixed in with all our new development. Thank you so much.
Sure thing. You got it.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mark. We appreciate it. Thank you for your presentation. Let's proceed on to our public comments portion. Ms. City Clerk, if you would please play the recorded comments. Thank you.
There are 2 comments that exceeded the 3 minutes, and so they'll be cut off at the 3-minute mark.
Yes, this is Harry Hatch, resident of San Bernardino, Ward 7. My comments tonight are on an item not on calendar. This has to do with the Central City Mall and Carousel Mall project that we got some information on last week. I was able to go back and listen to the 2 presentations a total of 3 times now. And in all my listening to this, no one has touched on the security and fire protection issues that this new project will bring to the Central City area. Now, if you create all of these small streets or the larger green area, you don't have access to the large fire trucks that are needed for the high-rise buildings that you're planning on building. It just seems like that should have been brought into focus a lot longer before than this. Now, if you go back to the 1960s, several cities, including San Bernardino and the city of Corona, had what they call footbeats for police officers. I myself was a foot patrol officer at the city of Corona. And we shook the doors of the businesses every night to make sure that they were locked. Well, are you going to do the same thing to this area? Because when it was Central City Mall and when it was the Carousel Mall, additional officers were employed by the Central City Mall procedure in our businesses, along with the city, of off-duty officers to create a different police force inside the mall. And they were able to do police work. All of it, relieving the patrol people of the issues of having to come to the Central City Mall or to the Carousel Mall to handle those. Now, that's the same thing that they have done in special police districts, such as Victoria Gardens in Rancho Cucamonga, and even San Manuel, using the security patrol that they have and the contracts they have with both the city of San Bernardino and the county of San Bernardino. Now, these are issues that you're going to have to take into consideration even before you start your demolition, because once you start your demolition, you're going to have an attractive nuisance. And that's going to attract everybody that they can. You know, there's a big hole in the ground underneath the base where all of the...
Hi, my name is Andy, and I'm calling for public comments, agenda item 20. I wanted to say that I am happy that Little Creek and Paris Hill will be getting new parking lots. However, I wanted to ask about the process for approving and reviewing renovation projects. I can think of several other parks that need parking lots or improved playground facilities. I wonder why this project was expedited when, for example, Rudy C. Hernandez, Delman Heights, and Rubin Compost parks are actually in devastated conditions. Whoever is making the decisions to pursue park projects may not be doing a full-hearted job. Given the uninspiring and depressing renovation done to Lionel Hudson Park, for example, with cheaply designed wind chimes, a quickly come boring tic-tac-toe game, and vapid ABCs, and not even the full alphabet, just a large A, B, and C, I have to ask, what is going on here? We also have to ask why advertisements and sponsorships from the LA Kings and LA Galaxy were sought and placed at this park. We are 100 miles or so from Los Angeles. Shouldn't we try to think locally? Was any community input sought for the playground ideas? We need to start comparing ourselves to Fontana or Rialto, where the parks are inspiring, prioritized, and creatively constructed. Furthermore, I wanted to ask how it came to be that this vendor for the parking lot renovation was awarded this contract for $500,000. The vendor lists their headquarters in Anaheim. Would it not benefit our city and businesses to seek local vendors and contractors? We could do two birds with one stone. We can lift up our city and economy when we shop locally. When the city shops locally, just like we ask the citizens to do. Thank you.
Public comment for Treasurer Ortiz, open session. Good evening, Council. On tonight's agenda, there are two items that have caught my attention. First is number 6, the Downtown Advisory Committee and Adjustments to the Municipal Code. I ask that you not approve this tonight and rather take time to assess what you're actually going to create. This is a great opportunity to implement some of the recommendations that Mayor Pro Tem Ibarra and Councilman Sanchez are trying to push, which is establishing standards where those who have access to this committee, kind of like what they were talking about with cannabis, aren't contributors to political accounts, don't have any direct financial dealings in the development of the downtown, and will be able to make impartial recommendations to the council that will benefit the city as a whole. Additionally, I don't think that anybody that does not hold a business license in the city should be considered. We have a lot of people here that live out of the city but invest here directly, and those are the type of people that need to be given consideration over some Irvine developer that has greased the mayor's palms and wants to get in here. And that leads me to the third thing, is that the mayor should have no choice or ability to pick anyone that goes onto this committee. He's shown that he has a track record of using his power to veto any type of project that doesn't benefit people that have directly contributed to him. Additionally, the pay-for-play corruption that has been allowed and his ties to the downtown need to be addressed, and this is an area that has potential for litigation if you guys don't address that now. Next is item 16, which is the gun buyback program. I really hope that you pull this and table it. This is a Band-Aids on bullet hole approach and does nothing to reduce violent crime in our city. We need to take a practical approach, and gift cards are not it. If you want to use $30,000, invest into an audit of the police department and find out why they can't do anything with the $85 million they're already given. Invest into a gang unit which will actually work on reducing crime with the gangs in our city. Go out for a national recruitment for a police chief who has a proven track record in reducing crimes in cities. This is the time for bold action. This is not the time to continue these sideline pet projects of council members that do nothing but waste taxpayer dollars. I beg of you guys to implement something worthwhile. If it was gift cards to Home Depot or Olive Garden that was going to save lives, wouldn't we have already done this? And gang members are not waiting for an opportunity to voluntarily give away their weapons. They're out killing people on the daily. We need to save lives and do something for real. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Cheryl Brown, and this message is for Hardy Brown, and these are his comments for tonight's meeting. Hardy says, I have watched your last 2 meetings with much delight and disgust at the same time from my den at home, as the acting police chief gave his report and as the developers presented their vision for downtown. I was delighted to get the information on the crime report in the city, but disgusted with the fact that Acting Chief McBride did not make the report available to the council and the public ahead of time. The disgust was from the lack of respect he showed to the full council and public But more importantly, he disrespected Councilmember Ibarra as a woman and a Latina woman because she had made this request of McBride before. Then, to make matters worse, when the council members Johnson, Reynoso, and Alexander questioned him about diversity, McBride answered back as though they were to do his job of recruiting blacks for the city. We pay him almost $500,000 a year to make sure the city policies are carried out, that ensure staff reflects the population that lives here and pays the bills. That brings me to the workshop meeting to select the developer to demolish and rebuild the 45 acres known as the Carousel Mall. I was impressed with the second presentation of ideas they have to rebuild that area of our city, but disappointed with their lack of diversity in the company. They said all of the right things, but I've heard that language in the past as they rebuilt downtown, Hospitality Lane, Shandon Hills Golf Course, as only a few projects in this city. When I looked at the city staff that was receiving the report, it too was all white with no blacks or Latinos on it. This staff of this city has a lack of commitment to include blacks as a part of the city's growth, which is not in keeping with the desires of the citizens. The voters elected 3 blacks and 3 Latinos on the council, and 4 Latinos and 3 blacks on the school board. So racism is not rooted in the community, but is alive and well in the city staff. Thank you, Hardy Brown, west side of San Bernardino, probably a 60-year resident. Thank you.
Paula Plunk, General Audience Discussion. We, the people, the community of San Bernardino, are a community of character. The traits include integrity, accountability, honesty, responsibility, self-discipline, respect, and most importantly, compassion. Some of you might have to look in the mirror and realize that you don't hold any of those traits and don't care, right, John and Juan? But we are forced to, once again, go around the depravity mountain called the San Bernardino City Government. Tonight, driving the train into the mountain is IPC McBride. Let's get to it, shall we? By the way, Mr. Alexander, don't run out of the room like the cowardly, thin-skinned, predatory sexual harasser the mayor does during our We the People portion of the meeting. Eyes are upon you, sir. While our godforsaken county remains on the pandemic watch of hell, IPC McBride and his foolish decisions put forward tonight the gun buyback program, while our fellow community members are sick and or dying of COVID-19, and as we are staying home under the state mandate. This cruel and unconscious decision by IPC McBride speaks clearly to his lack of integrity and devoid of any sort of compassion for this community which he does not reside in. Clearly, this is another attempt to pad his resume for another job in government. Big Bear, sir, I will light a candle for that beautiful community. God help them all. If this council moves forward with this garbage during our most vulnerable time with COVID-19 trying to kill us all, this will become my marker to begin the process to remove you from your chairs. I don't care if your delusions of grandeur include re-election or taking over a new chair. This council will be portrayed as hostile and inhumane. We, the people, are completely done with this incessant cruelty that is set upon us every day while we are trying to survive COVID-19 or completely living without a community policing department. The purple wave is here. Learn how to serve or get out of those chairs. In closing, we know, we the people, are in Christ helping him save this community. What are you doing?
Hello, this public comment is for open session for items not on the agenda. This is Commissioner Porter, 4th generation living in San Bernardino. The first thing I'd like to discuss is the integrity standards that Councilman Sanchez has brought up. I really think that's something we should look into, and I hope you're all studying it and figuring out what you would like with these integrity standards and what it should entail. Also, Glenn Rogers from the school board contacted me about possibly naming a street in San Bernardino after Martin Luther King Jr. So if we could possibly look into that, that'd be really cool. And maybe even D Street right there in front of the statue, or maybe in front of a park or something. We could check that out. Park restrooms are really in dire need. We need some ability to use the restroom at the parks. The Neo Hunter gatherers at the park right now have no place to use the restroom, so of course we're just going to go wherever. And also the trash cans are overly filled, and they need to be at least taken out twice a week. This is getting out of control. The parks are just getting overwhelmed with trash and poop, and we can do something better. There's got to be an answer, and just leaving it as it is isn't the answer. Public comments should have been read last meeting before the presentations, and I was really disappointed that they weren't, because there was some good stuff there, and the developers all should have heard that, and by the end of the meeting, they were all gone. And of course, like, I'd expect them to stay to listen to it, and unfortunately, the mayor wasn't there either. And Mr. Valdivia, it's important that you listen to our public comments. And I'd also like to mention respect during the meetings. So I kind of felt like last meeting, Councilwoman Ibarra didn't even know that the mayor had left. So if you could make sure that you inform the mayor pro tem by using her designated position and let her know that you're not going to be at the meeting at the end, that would be very nice of you. Thank you very much, team. This is Robert Porter, and I love San Bernardino.
Hi, my name is Daniel, and I'm calling for the public comment for the open session. Hello, City Council and Mr. Mayor. I'm calling today to give a high-level overview of my thoughts on the presentations last week. So we had two presenters, SCA, I believe, the Shanghai Group, and ICO Renaissance Group. My thoughts on the Shanghai Group were that the presentation seemed ill-prepared, hard to follow, and hard to read at certain points of the presentation. If this were a presentation I was making at work, I probably would have failed that presentation. The presenters presented in such a way where they displayed that they don't seem to be too knowledgeable about developing in California, which is not a good thing. And they haven't really done their research about the community and what we really need. This somewhat is displayed by some of the names they even chose for the project. Did they even consider to get community input in regards to that? And another point of concern I found for their presentation was that they do not seem to really care too much about getting public feedback in regards to their project, which is a big concern. And the last point about them is that I thought it was odd that they were asking for certain TOT funds to, kind of help their project out. For my review of the ICO group / Renaissance Group was that they seemed really well prepared. On the other hand, they were extremely knowledgeable and passionate about their work and also about the community, and they really seem to care about getting community feedback and input on their project and building something for San Bernardino that the residents, businesses, and even the city would like to have. They seem to have given a clear overview of their calculus on how much space needs to be dedicated to commercial versus retail and residential. I just wanted to give you all my thoughts on that and have you make the best decision moving forward. I sincerely think that the Shanghai Group should not be considered based on what their presentation was, and I feel like it would have been nicer to have the public see more of these presentations that happened in the past. I believe there's 5 other presentations. It would have been nice if the public would, if the city were.
Hello, this message is for the open session of tonight's City Council meeting. That's February 3rd, 7 p.m. open session. Good evening, Mayor Valdivia, Madam Mayor Pro Tem Ibarra, and council members. This is Ernesto Hidalgo speaking on behalf of RDICO. We would like to thank you for the opportunity to present our vision for the Carousel Mall in downtown San Bernardino before you and the people of San Bernardino during this past Wednesday's special council meeting. While we could not speak publicly about specific details of our proposal until the city made the information public last week, we are very excited to be able to engage the people of San Bernardino now that the proposals have been made public. To this end, I have already emailed each of you with an invitation to co-host a virtual public forum together with us and to ensure the opportunity to include as many of the key stakeholders you wish to include in our discussions. I look forward to working with each of you who would like to help us outreach to your community stakeholders in joint effort. To the people of San Bernardino, I would like to inform you that we have created a web page for you to sign up for updates and learn more about upcoming events. Please visit sanbernardinodowntown.com and sign up to receive updates and information from RDICO regarding the Carousel Mall in downtown San Bernardino. I am also excited to inform you that Councilmember Damon Alexander responded very quickly to our invitation, and he will be hosting the first virtual public forum this Sunday at 3 p.m. Please visit sanbernardinodowntown.com and sign up for updates to receive the Zoom meeting details for Councilman Alexander's virtual public forum this Sunday. Also, I'm pleased to share with you that we are presenting in a webinar with the Inland Empire Regional Chamber of Commerce on Tuesday, February 9th at 2 p.m. Again, please visit sanbernardinodowntown.com and sign up for updates for additional information. We look forward to engaging with you. Thank you.
That concludes public comments.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's move on to item number 6. This is Code Amendment Downtown Advisory Committee. You have the recommendation there before you. It's two-part. At this time, I'll ask our city clerk to please read into the record the title of the ordinance MC 1552.
Thank you, Mayor. So ordinance of the Mayor and City Council of the City of San Bernardino, California, allowing non-city residents who have other ties to the city to be appointed to a downtown advisory committee.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. City Manager, the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, Mayor. So the item before you is a suggestion to, a little bit unique in terms of forming an advisory committee specifically for the purposes of advising on a specific plan. And part of the reason for this is that the downtown specific plan is going to be proceeding simultaneously with the general plan and probably will finish ahead of it. So we're taking a little bit of a different approach. Don't usually do this, but we wanted to bring the suggestions to the city council. Of course, the members of the advisory committee would be appointed by you. So we just wanted to give the opportunity to chew on this a little bit and get your feedback and perhaps your approval. The detailed specific, the specifics of the recommendation will be coming from Mike Huntley. So Mike, if you'd like to make a quick presentation, please.
Thanks, Rob. Honorable Mayor, members of the City Council, as you're aware, in September of this last year, the Mayor and the City Council authorized a professional service agreement with PlaceWorks for professional planning services associated with the city's comprehensive update to the general plan, but also to the creation of a downtown specific plan. In January of this year, the Mayor and the City Council approved a resolution establishing a general plan advisory committee. As a function of the comprehensive update of the general plan, it's customary to adopt a GPAC to assist the city with the formulation of the general plan. They function as an extension to the community and also provide feedback and guidance associated with the update to the general plan. Now that the GPAC has been established to assist in the comprehensive update, it is appropriate to establish a downtown advisory committee to concentrate on its efforts for the downtown specific plan. Now, due to the significance of the downtown, the Mayor and the City Council have directed staff and PlaceWorks to proceed with the downtown specific plan ahead of the general plan. Now, the downtown really is the core of the city, and due to many significant influences over the last 2 decades, there's been some decline in and around the Carousel Mall and the downtown area. The city wishes to remedy this by the adoption of a specific plan that is intended to incorporate development standards and a strategy that will serve as a catalyst for the creation of a destination attracting businesses and people to our downtown. Now, as I've indicated, the council's already created the General Plan Advisory Committee, but staff's also very interested in focusing and creating a Downtown Advisory Committee because of the importance of the city's downtown. Now, as part of this, staff is looking at the council being able to appoint residents of the city, but as you're aware, within our downtown, we have property owners and businesses that are located that have a vested interest as well. As such, we're bringing this proposal to council as a proposed code amendment that would allow for non-resident businesses in the city to participate in this. Now, I do want to take and clarify this. These would be appointees by the city council, right? And there'd be applications that would be submitted for consideration by the council to sit on such an advisory board. So based on that, there's a provision in the code under the city's charter that would allow for a ordinance to be adopted that would allow for council to create and allow for non-residents to participate. So I do want to take and point out to city council also that our recommendation specifically deals with the Downtown Advisory Committee that would be established at a subsequent meeting through a resolution adopted by council. I do want to point out this does not relate to any other commissions, advisory boards within the city, strictly for the intent of focusing vision on the growth and development that'll bring the community, not only the residents, but the businesses together to look at the long-term growth and development. So if City Council moves forward with adopting this code amendment tonight, staff would come back at a subsequent meeting with all the details we did, just like we did with the General Plan Advisory Committee, which would set out the goals and objectives, the number of members, and the like. So with that, that concludes my presentation, and I'm available for any questions the council may have.
Thank you very much, Mr. Huntley. There's a motion from staff. I'll entertain a motion. Is there a motion for approval on that?
Questions?
Motion for approval on the staff item. Councilmember Kelvin.
Thanks, Mike. I wanted to ask you, you said that the members would consist of non-residents, folks who own businesses in the city. Is that a guideline?
Correct. So the consideration tonight is to not only consider residents in this advisory committee, but also allow for non-residents who had businesses within the community. Right, so it would allow council to select these individuals. So let's just say, for instance, we have someone in downtown owns a commercial business and they have some interest. They could submit an application, and the city council could consider them as one of the members for the advisory board. But that selection is really up to city council at a future date.
Share with me again, why would we want to do this? Why would we not just simply look for our residents to sit on this commission?
Sure. So the business community itself is downtown, and I think they bring some expertise and experience to understand how the market functions, not only within the community, but in the Inland Empire and within the state. So they bring some valued skills and understanding, and I'm not indicating that our residents don't have those skills, but we want to provide that ability for council if you feel that there's someone who is in the business community, may not live here, but you want to appoint them as a member to the advisory committee, you would have the right to do such. But without the amendment to the code, it would strictly be city residents.
One more, Sandra. Hold on. One more, please. So when we talk about businesses being owned in the city by folks who don't live here, what is the number of that category of people?
Well, it'd be anyone who owns private commercial property in the city.
Oh, property, owned property,
yeah,
not
yeah,
an
it'd
actual
be property
business.
or business. No, it'd be a business or a property owner. It could be either or, to be honest with you.
Okay, because you didn't mention property at first. That's something very different. Owning property and owning a business, that's something very different.
Sure.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, council members, it's back for
Who
discussion.
to approve?
Motion.
Mayor, I have a question.
Is there a second to Councilman
Second.
Sanchez's motion?
Second with a follow-up question.
Second by Councilman Figueroa. Discussion. Councilmember, go ahead. Ibarra, go ahead. Councilmember, go ahead.
Mike, so in other words, it will be at the discretion of us council members to select whether we want a business owner, a property owner, or a resident to be on this committee, correct?
You are correct.
Thank you. That was my only question.
Councilmember, go ahead.
Mike, I'm sorry, Mr. Huntley. Would the number of appointments to, on the DAC be the same as the number that's been approved for the GPAC? As far as I think that was 2 per, or is this going to be the traditional 1?
I did have a discussion with Mr. Field. We are talking about 1. Just to kind of clarify that a little bit more, since the intent of moving the specific plan forward is a much shorter time period, we think that 1 appointee each is appropriate. When we talk about a 2 to 3 year processing for the general plan, having 2 per makes sense just in case 1 falls away. So in this case, we're looking at 1 appointee each.
And we are limiting this to under 34%. So realistically, we're looking at only 3 that could be on the DAC that are non-residents. We're just looking at only 3 out of the whole committee, correct?
I'm not sure we're setting a limit on it. We haven't set the limits on that yet. So
my understanding in the backup material that it was limited to under 34%, which if you do the math, it would be 3. Only 3 on the committee would be able to.
Mr. Huntley, he's referring to the resolution.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It
sorry.
states a quantitative amount of 34%. So if you might want to.
You are correct. I'm sorry.
Okay. Councilmember Reynoso, go ahead, sir.
I'm reading the resolution and I'm reading the amendments. I don't see anything in here that requires a business owner or a property owner to be considered. Where did that come from?
That came from actually, this is just part of our recommendation. It'd be a business owner. If you look at the staff report, we do actually talk about, so for instance, on page 32, we say local businesses and commercial property owners.
But it's not written in the resolution is what I'm saying, Mike.
We could provide some clarity to that if you would like.
I don't feel comfortable with that because it's not written. That's my only comment.
So can we make a motion to bring it back to the council when the resolution's updated?
That would be move to continue, if that's your pleasure.
Motion to approve with the included language that it would be required that the non-resident does have some type of business or property in the city as well. And so I would make that motion.
Are you okay with that, Councilman Sanchez? Can't hear you.
Yes.
Okay. All right. There's a motion and a second with that caveat. Council members, are you ready to vote? Final questions? If not,
Mayor
we will call.
Motion to continue?
Yeah, if we can, I'll make the motion to substitute motion to continue this until we have the updated resolution wording.
Or the ordinance.
Correct. I second that.
Thank you.
Okay, there's a substitute motion by Councilmember Barr and Reynoso to continue it. Any discussion on that? If not, City Clerk, call the roll on the substitute motion.
Councilmember Sanchez?
No.
Mayor Pro Tem Ibarra?
Yes.
Councilmember Figueroa?
No.
Councilmember Surratt?
Yes.
Councilmember Reynoso?
Yes.
Councilmember Calvin?
Yes.
Councilmember Alexander?
Aye.
Okay, motion passes 4-3.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to item number 7. This is an ordinance updating chapters 9.92 and 993 of the San Bernardino Municipal Code related to the administrative citation and administrative civil penalty procedures. At this time, I will ask the city clerk, please, to read into the record the title of ordinance of MC 1553.
An ordinance of the Mayor and City Council of the City of San Bernardino, California, amending chapters 9.92 and 9.93 of the San Bernardino Municipal Code related to the administrative citations and administrative civil penalties procedures.
All right, is there a motion before you? Is there a motion for approval?
Move to approve.
I have a question.
Is there a second on the motion?
Question.
Second on the motion by Councilmember Figueroa, and we'll open it up to council members for discussion and questions. Councilmember Alexander, you're recognized, sir.
Thank you. I appreciate it. On page 44 of the staff report, section 9.92.080, section B, it states a request for hearing officers, and it gives the authority to the city manager. And I'm not talking about our city manager. It just says the city manager. It could be a city manager 10 years from now. So my question is, why doesn't that authority be given to the commission, the Public Safety Commission, and let a trio of 3 public safety commissioners be the administrative hearing officers for this particular ordinance, instead of letting the city manager pick a qualified person to serve as that?
Let's punt that question to our city attorney. There's, I'm sure, some legal reason as aspects to Ms. City Attorney. Would you mind providing a response?
Yes, and I'd also get some staff input on this, Mayor, council members. Who you choose to serve as your actual hearing body is a policy decision. Some cities give that authority to their city manager. Other cities give that authority to a commission or a board, and other cities actually hire an independent administrator, an administrative hearing officer like a judge to listen to that. So I would maybe ask staff if they had a preference for one of them and why this was recommended.
Yes. Let's go ahead. Councilmember Sanchez, just a second, please. Let's allow staff to respond to that. Ms. Kramer, go ahead, please.
Mayor and members of the City Council and Councilmember Alexander, thank you for your question. I do want to note that the city manager has the authority to engage a hearing officer with a contractual agreement approved by the mayor and council. We do engage outside professional to serve in that capacity. These are usually very complicated matters. And we do recommend someone that is trained in dealing with property violation issues and the like, which they will be hearing. And there's quite a large number of them. So to engage a advisory group made up of residents to serve in that capacity, given the volume, we're having hearings, administrative citation hearings every other week, and administrative civil penalty hearings on the off week. So just about every week we have multiple hearings, and many of them are very complicated cases. We would recommend that the city continue to engage a professional in that capacity to serve as your hearing officer and ensure that it is an independent, fair process with trained personnel to be able to serve in that role.
Thank you, Ms. Kramer. Mr. Sanchez, Councilmember?
Yes, so when there's an appeal that's heard by, let's say, either a hearing officer or a panel made up of constituents, if those appealing don't get the remedy they seek, they may appeal, and they'll appeal to a civil court. And the city's going to have to defend a case that was basically in many ways tried by 3 civilians. And so individuals who, apart from the fact that they're not formally trained in code enforcement, they aren't legally trained. In most cases, they're not going to be legally trained, and it's going to open up a really bad situation where, again, our city attorneys are going to be put in a very precarious situation where they're having to defend a decision made by individuals who may have ulterior motives. Right? They may be trying a case that involves someone just outside of the area of, maybe just down the block or just down the way. And so what we need an individual who's well trained in this. And again, this is also a position that's going to require a tremendous amount of time and resources. And I don't think that there's a volunteer who's willing to put in 20 to 40 hours a week listening to code enforcement and hearings. That's going to be very difficult for any individual to do, even a very committed individual. So I would strongly advise that the council be wary that this would put us in a legally precarious situation.
Councilmember Reynoso, go ahead, sir.
I guess what my question is, Councilmember Sanchez is correct, but I guess what my real question is, when I was reviewing the edits, there's a lot. Why is it being shifted essentially from city attorney? There's sections where city attorney is being removed and administrative hearing officer is appointed. I guess that's what the real question is. Why is city attorney at capacity? Is it more suitable? And what is the difference based on what Councilmember Sanchez just said about qualifications and the ability to be trained in these things? What makes them different from what Councilman Alexander's talking about with, not to say that these people won't be qualified in that, but why city attorney removal and appointment of the administrative hearing officer?
So when these kinds of ordinances were originally adopted, many times it would be the city attorney. The city had an in-house city attorney's office, and they would be the ones involved in the administrative process. There have been a series of cases that have been decided over the years that say when an individual is facing citations or facing some action by the government, they should be entitled to a neutral party to review those actions, and not the city attorney who is closely aligned with the very government or city that's going to hear that matter. So we by law need to provide what's called a fair and open due proceeding that provides them due process. So that's the reason why we're even bringing this. We were updating this code, bringing it into conformance with current case law. Then after we get there, the actual person who listens to these cases is again up to the council to decide who that's going to be. I will say that in larger cities, it is very common for the city to use an administrative hearing officer that is contracted with by the city. These hearing officers become very familiar with your municipal code, and they become very familiar with your citations, and they begin to write reports that, if necessary, when we need to take them to court, that they are usually retired judges or might even be retired attorneys or people who work in this area. So they're well versed in how they're going to write that report. That's why I think the staff recommendation is such. But of course, again, it's a deference to council.
Has there been anywhere else in the nation where you've seen, because it's hard kind of to fathom like a lens of neutrality being appointed from city manager? I want to believe the city manager has the best interest of the city as well. And so I'm having a hard time drawing that line. Has it been done differently anywhere else?
Well, sometimes, the city, you might have a community development director in some cities. That's the position. Usually it's just that they hire an administrative hearing officer. Sometimes cities will actually go through an RFP process and they have to bring it back to the city council. So there is a level of check and balance and oversight by the city council, because if those contracts exceed the purchasing authority amount for the manager, then they have to bring it back to the council and explain to the council how they got to recommending the hiring of that particular person.
And if I might add, Councilmember Reynoso, we will be bringing back every 3 to 4 years. We generally go through an RFP process to engage a hearing officer. That current agreement that we have in place for our independent hearing officer is coming to a close, and we've been going through a RFP process for this very reason, and we'll be bringing something back to you in March for your review and consideration to select your next hearing officer that will be serving for whatever term is established by the council.
Thank you both.
Mr. Field, please give us some background. I think these are more tools for our staff to address the many concerns that our city council offices receive on a daily basis, our complaints. How bring this home as far as the practicality of this implementation. The revisions are more for to reduce redundancies, duplication of action, and to create a more nimble code department so we can get out there and enforce our municipal code. So talk us through that.
Okay, I'll kick it off. And Rebecca Kramer really is ultimately the subject matter expert, but I think in sort of broad terms, I'd say that this is an effort to sort of streamline and clarify the process and make things more efficient. That's really one of the things we're very much targeting here, is to ensure things are moved more quickly and that we are more responsive and agile. Nothing against the city attorney's office, but it's a highly specific area of endeavor, and candidly, I mean, it'll probably actually be a little bit more cost effective too. But let me ask Rebecca to sort of amplify on that. Rebecca, please.
Thank you. So just to add to that, this really is just a general cleanup of these two sections of the municipal code. They both include hearing procedures and appeal procedures. We wanted to make sure, even though we need both tools, we need the administrative citation, which is used most often, and the administrative civil penalty process available to us. We want, to the degree possible, have consistent procedures in terms of time frames for preparing hearing orders, those kinds of things, so that it minimizes, to the degree possible, confusion. We are trying to make sure that we're using consistent definition between both sections of the code. So that's what's being presented for you this evening. And as I'd indicated before, we will be bringing back an item for you to select and approve who you would like to designate as, or who we would recommend you designate as the hearing officer for the city relative to code enforcement violations and the like.
Councilmember Sanchez.
Yes, all right. So I got two things. First one is I take well what Councilmember Reynoso had mentioned, that there might be a bias, but there's a mechanism in place for that. The contractor, whoever the public hearing officer is, cannot be awarded a second term on the contract. So they don't have to worry about saying, hey, let me make sure to keep my employer, the city of San Bernardino, happy so that I get my contract renewed. So that is not in place. So at that point, he has no incentive other than to make sure that his cases aren't appealed to a civil court, because I don't think that will reflect well on him. So he's going to want to make the decision that's best in the eyes of legal scrutiny. Second thing, I think it's time we about approve this. There's only one issue I see, and I know that under the amendments, we would do away with the city's responsibility to provide for a certified interpreter. If we can add that back in there, I'm ready to make the motion to approve and move this forward.
There's been a motion already, sir.
Oh, well, can we add that? Who made the motion?
Nobody.
Who made the motion?
Nobody made a motion. Nobody.
I'll make that motion with that amendment. And I know.
Second.
I have a.
Hold on, Councilmember. All right, Ms. City Clerk, did you get that?
Yes.
Okay. Motion by Sanchez with a second by Councilmember Reynoso. Go ahead, Councilmember Kelvin.
So, Ms. Kramer, you said that you guys will be coming back and bringing us several candidates to choose from, or companies to choose from, or we
would generally recommend one. Certainly, if the council wants to consider multiple, we can. We have currently a hearing officer in place that serves, like I say, on a weekly basis. Hearings are taking place. We've had that agreement for a period of 3 years, and now we are bringing forward a replacement for the existing hearing officer. We do recommend just to have a consistent process, someone that is designated by the council to serve in this capacity with the qualifications necessary to be able to be most effective, that we be able to select one, and that also can impact pricing in terms of volume and what they would charge per hearing, et cetera. So we will be bringing it back. Certainly that is up to the council to decide who you would like to select, and if you concur with staff's recommendation. But at present, we currently have one firm that has been designated as a hearing officer, and that is what we will likely be recommending when we bring that back.
I would like to see several. We need to be able to choose, and even though we have had the same one for the last 3 years, council needs to be able to choose. So I would like to motion that we bring back several recommendations.
I think that could be an informal request, right? I think staff has been noticed on this. We would be happy. We would be happy to see several candidates brought forward.
Councilman Charette, go ahead, sir. You're recognized.
Well, I don't support the council going through several proposals. I want some clarity on the current. We've currently got a firm or a hearing officer that's been employed or contracted with us for several years. Is that correct, Rebecca?
That is correct.
Okay, and did I hear you say that you think that would be your recommendation?
Yes, our recommendation is, like I say, we've gone through an RFP process.
We have. Okay, wait.
Yes, we will be bringing forward a recommendation for selection of the hearing officer that will replace the existing firm that we're using for that service. Certainly, if the council wants to consider other alternatives, we can do that. But like I said, there are benefits by selecting one firm that's consistently handling all of these cases.
And I agree with you, but I still you kind of lost me a little bit. You've gone through the RFP process and have had a number of people respond to the RFP. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
A number of firms that we are considering, yes.
And you don't remember that happening?
I'm sorry?
You don't remember that happening?
I'm sorry.
Was staff charged?
Council member, Mr. Charette has the floor. You'll need to be recognized. Go ahead, Councilman Charette.
And so what we're doing right now is deciding on whether we're going to go. We're not deciding on that particular person right now. We're just cleaning up the code, and you'll be coming back with the recommendation based on the RFP that we've sent out.
That is correct.
All right, so I'm okay with that.
Okay, council members, there's a motion and a second with those add-ons.
Hey, I have a question.
Go ahead, ma'am.
The report says that there's no fiscal impact. How I know if we hire someone, there is going to be a fiscal impact, correct?
So there's no fiscal impact other than staff time to have completed the code amendment that's presented to you. The hearing officer themselves, we do have that budgeted. We currently have a hearing officer or a firm that's been engaged to provide that service for us, and a renewal or a replacement of the existing agreement would be coming back for council approval. So, and we will acknowledge what their rate is and the recommendation that will be included for your consideration, and that is included in our adopted budget.
Awesome, thank you. Okay.
The city clerk, please call the roll. There's a motion and a second. Thank you.
Councilmember Sanchez,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Ibarra,
Yes.
Councilmember Figueroa,
Yes.
Councilmember Charette,
Yes.
Councilmember Reynoso,
Yes.
Councilmember Calvin,
Yes.
Councilmember Alexander.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you very much. Moving on to our public hearing portion. This is item number 8, imposing the liens on certain parcels of real property for uncollected business registration fees. There's 3 recommendations there. At this time, I'm opening the public hearing at approximately 8:48 p.m. Could I please get a staff report on this item?
Yes, I believe the staff report this evening will be provided by Sam Singri. Sam, please.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. Good evening, Mayor, City Council. The items for you tonight is a resolution to impose liens on certain properties for unpaid business registration taxes. So per the section 5.04.076 of the Municipal Code, the City Council has the authority to place these unpaid taxes and penalties for business registration items as assessments on the associated properties after all other proper collection notifications have been given to these owners. So as part of normal business operations, the business registration staff does make multiple attempts to contact property owners to notify them of any outstanding business registration fees. And so this list of properties attached to the resolution represent those properties at the very end of this process where all other means of collection has been exhausted. So they'll be placed as liens on the associated properties. We also have Okay, yeah. We also have Business Registration Manager, Talisha Lopez, who's here to answer any questions.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Sam. There's a motion for approval.
I'm
Is there a
moving.
second?
Second.
All right, Ms. City Clerk, do we have any public comments on this matter?
No, we do not.
Council members, anyone wish to ask a question or comment? Yes, ma'am. Go ahead, council member.
Ms. Talisha, and this is just for businesses that are not paying their property taxes. Do we have anything on businesses that are operating without having a business license in our city?
The lien process is actually just for commercial properties and residential rental properties. So placing a lien, we're only able to do that for actual property owners. For the businesses, we would actually go through the administrative citation process or the administrative civil penalties process to collect for not registering the business.
Okay, thank you. That was all. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Ms. City Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Sanchez,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Ibarra,
Yes.
Councilmember Figueroa. That was a yes, correct?
Yes.
Thank you. Councilmember Surratt,
Yes.
Councilmember Reynoso,
No.
Councilmember Calvin,
No.
Councilmember Alexander.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-2.
Okay, thank you very much, council members. We're moving on to the consent calendar portion of tonight's meeting. I understand that we all have had the impacts of COVID on our city council meetings. We've had this agenda packet for nearly about 5 days now. We encourage council members to please ask questions prior to the meeting and register the concerns and questions prior to this meeting. And we ask that for a fluid meeting process. At this time, we will poll our council members for your individual poll, and then we'll move the balance. And we'll start with Councilmember Sanchez.
Yes, 15. And I did do my homework, okay?
13?
No, 15.
15. Well, that's good. My goal is to have council members come prepared to vote. Thank you, Councilman Sanchez. Appreciate that. Councilmember Ibarra.
Yes, I have questions on number 9 and number 20. And if we can pull number 16 for further discussion. Thank you.
Go ahead on 9 and 20, Councilmember. Your quick question on that. Did
I
you,
just
by the
wanna-
way, did you question it before the meeting?
No, Mayor.
Okay, go ahead.
Ms. City Clerk, what is the status on getting the minutes on our city website? They're still not up since April.
We've uploaded the minutes that have been approved at the last meetings, but as you know, my department has been short-staffed for the entire year of 2020, and my new staff members have started in the month of November. So we are currently working to get those late minutes completed to bring them back for your approval.
Okay, because it's been the ones from April on, they haven't been uploaded to the website where the agendas are included.
Okay.
They are currently on there.
Your question on number 20.
I just checked.
Councilmember.
My question on number 20 was, one moment. Yes, so for number 20, Mr. Alex Kishta, I just wanted to clarify, page 375 of the packet, it says A-frame gates. Those are the ones we had discussed, right, for Paris Hill Park on 21st and Highland Avenue?
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem Ibarra.
I forgot he's not here.
I'm flying solo tonight. Alex is out today, but yes, and in fact, we are planning to install those A-frame gates both at the Senior Center parking lot as well as the parking lot on the other side, the big parking lot for Paris Hill.
That was my only question. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Figueroa, continue with your poll, sir.
None.
Councilmember Charette. I can't hear you.
I know, I'm shaking my head, no.
No, okay. Councilmember Reynoso, sir, go ahead.
12, 13, 17, 18, 19, and 20.
Are these questions or comments on those items, sir?
I asked them to be pulled, so pull them.
Are they Well, you probably should ask those questions and statements. Come prepared to vote, Councilman. We're here to do the taxpayer business. We'll go ahead and pull it, but you need to come prepared with those questions.
This is the taxpayers.
Councilmember Calvin, go ahead.
This is the taxpayers' business, Mayor.
Go ahead.
I'm pulling number 9. And I have some questions on the buyback program.
What number is that?
16.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Go ahead on 16 for your question.
My questions were, I wanted to know how successful was this program in 2013 and 2010, last time that we did it, and did we see any decrease in crime?
Okay. Why don't we do this? Because I just saw that we have Councilmember Ibarra with her poll. So let's continue on the polls. Does that conclude your polls, Councilmember?
It does.
Councilmember Alexander, sir, go ahead.
None.
Is there a motion for the balance?
So moved.
Move to approve.
Okay, Councilmember Alexander and Councilmember Sanchez. And Ms. City Clerk, if you'd call the roll.
Councilmember Sanchez?
Yes.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Ibarra?
Yes.
Councilmember Figueroa?
Yes.
Councilmember Charette?
Yes.
Councilmember Reynoso?
Yes.
Councilmember Calvin?
Yes.
Councilmember Alexander?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Okay, thank you very much. These are items number 9. Councilmember Kelvin, you pulled it?
I did.
Item number 9.
I did pull it because in the minutes, it did not list any of the items that I have requested for future meetings.
I'll revisit the meeting video and bring the revised minutes back to you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Is there a motion for approval?
I move.
Well, I would, may I ask?
Yeah, go
ahead. Until the record reflects the correct information, should we be approving this I don't know. Ms. City Clerk, you're going to know best. Should we be approving this if it doesn't reflect or we're questioning whether it reflects the right information?
We're continuing, or we're bringing it back for consideration the next meeting.
So we're not moving to approve. We're moving to continue to the next meeting.
Yes.
Oh, is that what we're doing? Oh, okay, sorry.
Okay,
Yes.
So is there a motion for continuance?
Yes, to the next council meeting.
A second.
Councilmember, okay. Is there any objections to that? Okay, hearing none, so ordered. Item number 12.
This is interesting stuff. And so a lot of people have questions about how we invest, and we have an investment portfolio. City Manager, could you just share with the public my understanding is that we do joint investment with other cities, correct?
I'm actually going to turn this over to Sam Singer. He's been directly involved in this. So Sam.
Yeah, thank you. So yes, Councilmember, we do have a joint investment called it's under LAIF, for the Local Agency Investment Fund. So it's run by the state of California, that a number of other cities, local agencies, special districts that can also invest in there and pool their money together with the state to get a little bit more flexibility and some better returns than out in the market at times.
Are you able to answer whether, like, which cities in particular, like around us directly? Like, does Rialto invest with Chase Bank with us? You don't have that?
I don't have that information. I'm not sure.
Okay. Could you compile that? That's my only question.
Sure. Just to see what other, I guess, what other agencies participate in LAIF as well.
Right.
Yeah.
I motion to approve.
Second.
Any objections? Hearing none, so ordered. Item 13.
That was people.
Go ahead, Councilman. You pulled item number 13.
I did.
Go on.
So the discrepancy in our single audit or not discrepancy, that quote, significant deficiencies identified were with payroll, and said that we had rectified it. And so I'd like to know, City Manager, give us an update, or whoever's responsible directly. Is that you again, Matt, on how we've corrected that so that people can know how their money is being spent correctly? We've taken corrective action?
Yes, yeah. And there, just to, I guess, maybe clarify or give some background. So yes, the single audit is conducted because the city expends more than $750,000 in federal funding per year. So that's just a requirement from the federal government to undergo a single audit to ensure that the grant funds are being reported correctly, that they're being expended in accordance with the grants. And then as part of that single audit, they also review a number of controls over the financial reporting process. So that'll be sort of those, or the history of that's listed on your packet, page 135. So you'll see actually the number of findings that the city's had over the past maybe 5 to 6 fiscal years. Those were as high as 13 findings back in 2015. So we have been able to kind of systematically work through and eliminate those. There were the 2 that were identified for fiscal year 20. You mentioned that one of those that the auditors identified was related to payroll, and it was just due to segregation of duties within the payroll process. So there were payroll technicians that have the ability to update pay rates and things as part of the normal process, but they can also run payroll. So the auditors just brought that to our attention as something that management would want to address. And as part of addressing that, we've implemented a new control for the Director of Finance to review a payroll change report every pay cycle to ensure that any changes are made or properly authorized, that there's no unauthorized changes or unusual changes each pay period prior to payroll being actually paid out and posted. So we were able to run back and do that all for the previous fiscal year to cover that. And then that's a continuing process going forward.
Thanks, Sam. And thank you to the city. I motion to approve.
Second.
By Councilmember Alexander. Thank you. Any objections to item 13? Hearing none, it's so ordered. Item number 15, Councilmember Sanchez. Sir, go ahead.
Yes, this one should be pretty quick. There's language for the temporary staffing that indicates that the temporary staff would be making 5.5% less than the first step for the position they're filling temporarily. I would be ready to make the motion to approve the document as long as the 5.5% less or cut in pay is stricken from all the language. And I'm ready to make that motion to approve.
That I'll ask that quickly. That's not a difficulty at all. No objection at all from staff.
All right, so I would say, so now to kind of wake everyone up, equal pay for equal work. If the person, even if they are temporary, are filling that position and they're working shoulder to shoulder with someone doing the same work in the same city, they should be getting paid the same. They shouldn't be starting 5.5% behind. They're doing their hard work, and as long as they're doing good work, then they should be getting paid the same as their neighbor down the way.
Is there a
Move to approve.
Is there a second? Councilmember Kelvin. All right. Any objections to item 15? All right. So ordered. Thank you. Councilmember Kim Kelvin and Councilmember Ibarra, ladies, you pulled item number 16. Councilmember Ibarra, go ahead, ma'am.
Yes, quick question. How much is the city paying right now on the overtime costs to our staff?
I don't understand your question. You just say in general terms, how much money have we spent department-wide?
Correct. Your report on page 264 says that department will use on-duty personnel to facilitate the program and eliminate additional overtime costs. What's that amount?
So historically, for these types of programs, we've placed officers on overtime to facilitate it because officers are typically assigned to other responsibilities. In this case, we're going to use on-duty personnel that are already working, such as the district resource officers to actually conduct the program. So therefore, there's no additional expenditure of overtime.
Correct. So you don't have an additional amount of how much we're paying currently on overtime for those officers that are processing the guns?
This is a standalone program that we're proposing. We don't do this program on a regular basis. This is a special event.
Okay, because you are asking for $30,000 from our general fund. That's why I wanted to get some idea of how much we're actually saving by approving this $30,000.
maybe I don't quite understand where you're going on this. So this is a special thing that we've only done twice in the last 10 years or so. So this is a 1 day, maybe more than 1 day event that we'll do. The expenditure of $30,000 is to purchase gift cards to exchange to individuals who turn in various types of firearms. This is a standalone event. It's not something that we do year round. And so there's no regular cost associated with this. It's not a budgeted item.
Okay, yeah, because in the next page 265, it says that staff will make the initial gift card purchase of $10,000. So if it's a one-time event, what's going to happen with the other $20,000?
So in the past, we've spent, I think it was a little over $15,000. So we don't want to have to go back or run out. So we wanted initial approval of $30,000. We'll purchase $10,000 in gift cards. If we run out, we'll have the ability to go purchase more that day. But we don't want to purchase more gift cards than we expend. And therefore, if we don't expend that money, it goes back into the general fund. It gets returned to the city.
Thank you.
Councilmember Kelvin.
Good evening, Chief. I believe 2013 was the last time that we had this 1 day event, correct?
Correct, yes.
Do you have any documentation tonight to tell us how effective it is as far as decreasing crime in the community? Been able to put that together?
We don't have any, it's hard to quantify something that doesn't happen, obviously. And so we don't have any data that demonstrates that it affected crime one way or another. With that being said, it's a popular program across the country. So we did query if there's other studies out there, and there are studies that suggest that it doesn't necessarily have an impact on crime, but it's difficult to gauge that impact when something doesn't happen.
Thank you.
Okay, is there a motion for approval?
I move.
Mayor,
Yeah, Councilman Charette, go ahead, sir.
just a quick comment. I didn't pull this item, but since it's been pulled, I wanted to make a comment or ask a couple of questions. Number one is, I attended the buyback. I think it was at the stadium, wasn't it, Chief, when we did that the last time?
It may have been, I'm not quite sure.
Okay, and there was a response, obviously. Is just for the clarification of the community, we obviously know that the bad guys aren't going to be turning in their guns for, my assumption is the bad guys aren't going to be turning their guns for a gift card. But is the idea of getting these out of households so that they won't be stolen in a say a house robbery, or what is the real purpose? And along those other lines, I saw some of the guns that were turned in. If you could call them a gun, it had been maybe buried in the ground for 20 years, was all rusted, didn't have a cylinder in it, couldn't have shot a bullet through it if you had to, and yet that was honored. Have we qualified or come up with a category of guns that qualify for this buyback?
Yes, Councilmember, thank you for the question. Yes, this is obviously people who possess firearms and they intend to commit crimes with them aren't necessarily going to come down and exchange those for gift cards for $50 to $200. That being said, a lot of the weapons that are used in our crimes are stolen guns. So this is, if someone doesn't want to store the gun any longer, doesn't want to have responsibility of gun ownership, this allows them an opportunity to exchange that for a gift card in varying quantities or amounts from $50 for a non-operational firearm, which is maybe the one that you're speaking about. So you get the minimal amount of $150 or $100 for a pistol, rifle, or shotgun in working order, and then $200 for an assault rifle as defined by the state of California.
Mr. Mayor?
Councilmember, go ahead.
Yes.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you very much.
Yeah, and the chief is right, and it's guns like that. Also, when you do buyback programs, the police department, I don't know if ours is going to do it, they also educate the public on firearm safety. Sometimes, I don't know if our department's going to do it. Sometimes we provide gun locks to particular firearms that gun owners or firearm owners can take and keep their guns safe. And then also, if they separate the key, obviously, from the lock, it stops people that do steal firearms from using them. So there's many benefits other than trying to reduce crime. Firearm safety, gun locks are provided. It reduces guns out of homes, so individuals who don't know how to get rid of firearms, they can bring them down to the department as well.
Councilman Alexander, you're correct that in the past we have provided gun locks and cables to people who, because they're required to secure a weapon, either in a gun safe or with the cable and lock. Matter of fact, the state law requires that those cables and locks be sold with every new firearm that's sold in the state of California. I believe we still have some of those left over. We can make sure that some of those are down there for those that maybe still maintain some firearms and they didn't want to turn them all in, to ensure that they adequately secure those firearms in their home.
One more question, please, Chief McBride.
Yes.
How do we determine the $30,000 amount to the one-day activity?
Well, it was very popular back in 2013, and I think we spent about almost $16,000. So, what is that number? We need to. We'd rather have enough money on hand to ensure that everybody that shows up is able to surrender a firearm for a gift card. So, and what we're going to do is purchase them in $10,000 increments. So we'll have $10,000 in gift cards on hand and not spend the other $20,000 unless there's actually demand. So we just came up with an arbitrary number to make sure that we have an adequate number to handle anybody that might show up. But we don't hopefully intend to, well, hey, if we sell them all, if we give all the gift cards away, that means we had a very, very successful program and got a lot of firearms off our streets. But
so it's a 1 day or a 2 day?
We could break it up. It depends. If it's successful, but we don't spend all the money, we can have an additional day or two. It just depends. We'll play it by ear, and that's we don't know what the demand is going to be. So if it's successful, but we spend $15,000 on the first day, maybe we'll run it a second day. But maybe 6 months, and maybe we can capture some different people.
Okay, council members, is there a motion for approval on this item?
Can I make a substitute motion? Mayor.
Yes, please. Go ahead.
Can we bring it down to 15,000 instead of the 30,000?
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Discussion? Councilman Charette.
It makes no sense. Let's have the money available on hand. If it's not spent, the chief has made it clear that it's going back into the general fund. And if it goes over the 10 or 15 or $20,000, we've gotten more guns maybe off the streets. So I don't support limiting this. I don't know why we sometimes are so tight, especially and maybe not basically trusting staff that they're going to take so they only use 10. You think they're going to run away with the other 20? It's going back into the general fund. It makes no sense. Let's take the handcuffs off and make it possible for us to operate and give staff the ability to operate.
Okay, there's a substitute motion to reduce it from 30,000 to 15,000 by Councilmember Ibarra, the second by Councilmember Reynoso. Is there any discussion on that? If not, City Clerk, call the roll.
Councilmember Sanchez?
Come back to me. God, I'm thinking about it.
Mayor Pro Tem Ibarra?
Yes.
Councilmember Figueroa?
No.
Councilmember Charette?
No.
Councilmember Reynoso?
Yes.
Councilmember Calvin?
Yes.
Councilmember Alexander?
No.
Councilmember Sanchez?
No.
Okay. The substitute motion does not pass.
Okay, is there a motion for the floor motion?
I'll move it.
Councilman Charette, is there a second? Second?
Second.
Call the roll, please, City Clerk.
Councilmember Sanchez?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Ibarra?
Yes.
Councilmember Figueroa? Councilmember Figueroa?
Yes.
Thank you. Councilmember Charette?
Yes.
Councilmember Reynoso?
No.
Councilmember Calvin?
Yes.
Councilmember Alexander?
Aye.
Okay. Motion passes 6-1.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Item number 17, street vacation.
Yeah, I have questions about, is there a public hearing required? I know the proximity of BNSF, the expansion there, and some of the development that's happening there is going to touch right up against homes. Is there a requirement for public hearings to discuss any of this?
Sure. Good evening, Councilmember Reynoso. Yes, as a matter of fact, this is the notice of intent to hold a public hearing related to this vacation. So that's what this consent calendar item is doing, is basically getting the approval from the mayor and city council to hold a public hearing. I believe it's on March 17th is when we're looking to schedule for this item.
I'd like to make, does somebody else have questions first?
Is there a motion for approval?
I'd like to make a substitute motion
Go ahead, sir.
to amend it to 2 public hearings.
Is that out of the ordinary, Chris?
So part of the challenge here is this is actually going to be, probably much to your surprise, a second public hearing on this street vacation, right? Because our first public hearing that we had was approved by the council, and there were some easements that were reserved in the vacated section of roadway. Those easements are why we're kind of back at the table here for another public hearing, because this street vacation supports the Mount Vernon Bridge replacement project, and basically is a necessity for us to be able to kind of shift BNSF's operations and keep them working while the bridge replacement is happening over the next few years. So this truly is a second public hearing related to this. It is not normal, and I will defer to the city attorney, I think, to have a purposeful, like, 2 public hearings. Sonia, I'll defer to you. You're muted.
All right, thought I had that off. So, normally what we do is we look to the statutes to guide us on what type of notices we need, public notices that need to be published, what type of hearings we need to have. So we strictly comply with those statutes. In a situation where we have an applicant, like a land use applicant, we would be required to comply strictly with those statutes. In this case, the city council, obviously the vacation, you own the land. And I think because it's different, it's not like an applicant who has private property interest already, which we would then say to you, I'm sorry, the statute says you only have to have 1 public hearing, so you need to follow that. I think because this is the city's property, our first preference and our recommendation is let's stick to the statute because that's the way it was written. But if the council said, again, as a matter of discretion, we just want to be extra careful here and would like to have at least 1 more public hearing, I do think that that's up to the council. It certainly wouldn't be the recommendation, because our recommendation is always to follow the state law as it's written.
Which is 1 hearing typically.
And if I may, Mayor, members of council, we also are definitely trying to keep the timeline, obviously, on this project. So that would be another consideration in requesting that additional hearings be conducted.
Councilman Sanchez.
Yes, so this is in the middle of the first ward, the ward that I represent. So I'm intimately familiar with this issue. Ben Reynoso has a great idea, and I'll tell you that's exactly what the city is doing, by accident, by the way, because we have already done a vacation, a street vacation hearing. But in that case, we created an easement, or we allowed an easement for the service lines. And now we're realizing in this project of rebuilding the Mount Vernon Bridge that those easements are going to impede our ability to build that bridge. So now we're going to have these hearings again and not awarding those easements. So actually, we're doing this again. So we're basically at 4 times that this item has been brought before the council. With that said, I do believe that all those houses that abut 4th Street, and there's only one side of the street where it was lined with houses, all those houses have been demolished for this project. So nobody lives on that street, actually. There's nobody on that street. So I would say Ben has a good point, and I think in the future maybe we kind of take cues from that. But in this instance, we have a very unique case, and I think we should move forward with it.
All right.
So that would be my motion. That's my motion.
I'll second that. I'll second that.
Move the floor motion and a second by Reynoso. Okay. Any objections to it? None. So ordered. Item number 18, sir. Go ahead.
My question is about this project, this is an award for, this project's, the Highlands Hills Specific Plan was approved originally, my understanding, in '89. The environmental impact report was done in 2001. And so, city attorney, what is the federal statute related directly to an approval like that still being, I guess, eligible to be considered, as opposed to not having to do it again?
That's a very, very good question. So under the California Environmental Quality Act, which is CEQA, when a project comes forward and it's discretionary, so if the project is considered a discretionary project, we have to conduct environmental review. There is no statute that tells us that an environmental document expires after 5 years or 10 years or even 20 years. What the test is that when you are asked to make a new discretionary action, you need to look at that environmental document and you need to, staff should be advising you, are there new impacts associated with this project that weren't studied in that original environmental document? But the key here is that we're talking about a discretionary approval. What you have before you this evening is really a ministerial approval. And there is a huge difference because under the Subdivision Map Act, when a tentative map is approved and the environmental review was done for that tentative map, staff is supposed to go, and usually your city engineer is supposed to go back and look at all the conditions imposed on that tentative map. And then the staff report is supposed to represent to you, their sole job right now is to represent to you, did they comply with all of the conditions that were imposed under that tentative map? So you don't necessarily at this point get a second bite at the apple, even though 10 years could pass or 20 years or even 30 years in some cases. The only way that you could go back and do new environmental review is if you had some evidence that this project is going to have environmental impacts above and beyond those impacts that were studied when it was originally approved.
Understood.
So did new information come to light, which would now make you conclude that the environmental impacts were not properly studied back then?
Okay. It sounds like you've given me good direction. I'll motion to approve.
Second.
On this one, let's go ahead and call roll on that, City Clerk.
What are we calling roll?
We're calling the roll on item number 18.
Why is that?
Ms. City Clerk, please call the roll.
Excuse me, Mayor, can I ask a question, please? Why are we calling roll on this one and didn't call roll on the others?
It's procedural.
How? Please explain.
It's the chairman's prerogative.
Chairman's prerogative to call roll on
Ms.
certain
City Clerk,
items.
please call the roll. Thank you.
So everyone,
Ms. Calvin, we're going to try to conduct the meeting, please.
City Attorney,
Ms.
can
City
you
Clerk.
advise?
Thank you.
Ms. City Clerk, please call the roll. Thank you.
Councilmember Sanchez?
Mayor, I'd like to hear from our city attorney.
I'd like to make a motion that we reconsider the chair's decision to move forward with this. I mean, maybe, I don't know if this is something we can address now, but maybe we kind of follow a certain rhythm of things. Either we do a roll call vote on everything, or
Well, this is a planning issue. It's the chairman's prerogative, Mr. Sanchez.
you do have discretion. You do have discretion, but the nature of things nowadays, maybe we should keep things.
Why don't we do this, folks?
All right.
We can talk about it at a later time. We're
City
trying to
Attorney,
conduct.
please consult.
Miss Calvin, hold on. You haven't been recognized, ma'am. Just a minute. So it's a chairman's prerogative, and I'm asking that the city clerk please continue to finish her roll call, and Miss City Clerk, please continue to finish.
As vice chair, Mayor, as vice chair, I'd like to hear from our city attorney. Thank you. Just to
Miss City
help
Attorney,
answer
please,
the questions.
go ahead.
So I think what I would do tonight is I'd have you move forward. I do need to provide to the city council some advice, and I'll be advising the mayor as well as to what the legal requirements are for the city and how it takes and conducts the meetings. I don't have your rule of decorum in front of me. I probably should, and I would like to go through that with your clerk. I will remind the mayor that because we are teleconferencing and these are virtual meetings, that in teleconferencing rules, which the governor under executive order says we, don't have to comply with all of them. One of the things that he did ask for is that we take votes and that they be reported out on each and every vote. I know that we haven't done that strictly, but I will work with the city clerk to get you the legal advice and copy the rest of the council so everyone's on the same page and we're not just doing it, arbitrarily.
Okay. Please call the roll. Continue to call the roll.
Councilmember Sanchez,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Ibarra,
Yes.
Councilmember Figueroa. That was
I keep saying yes, and it sounds like nobody can hear me.
no, we can't.
Okay.
Councilmember Surratt,
Yes.
Councilmember Reynoso,
Yes.
Councilmember Calvin,
Yes.
Councilmember Alexander.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. Item number 19.
I'm going to use this as an opportunity to enlighten the community on infrastructure grants that we're applying for. Are we applying for the maximum amount of infrastructure money that's being allotted? Is there a new pot coming that you're expecting? I guess I'm talking to Chris and Mike and city manager, whoever is most comfortable answering.
Well, I can, Councilmember Reynoso, for the Public Works Department, we absolutely go after everything that we can. Lots of times these grant opportunities will come up, and if they're competitive and you have to have a shovel-ready project and we don't have something that is going to be competitive, we obviously will flag it for future. But we definitely try to push the limits in getting everything that we can related to federal, state, or transportation grants.
So our current status of streets and things like that don't overqualify us?
They do, but having truly a shovel-ready project where you've already done the design and you're ready to go out to bid, sometimes it's hard to compete for funding, but we always apply for anything that we're even close or that we think that we can pull off, squeezing in. So in terms of this specific grant, the local roadway safety plan funding was absolutely something that we, you also have to be able to justify the amount that you're asking for. So if there's $5 million available, but it's really only going to take us $300,000 to do our plan, or $200,000, that's what we do. So.
And I wanted to say thank you for your work, because I looked at the chart and we received way more than the local municipalities.
Well, I have to give credit where credit is due. Mr. Azam Jabshay is our traffic engineer, and under the direction of Mr. Alex Kishta, who's not here tonight, they pulled this off. So kudos to them.
Yeah, basically the way the grant works, Council, is that this is based on center line miles. So basically we have 720 center line miles in the city. And you're absolutely correct. This is one of the largest grants that we received from the state. So kudos to everybody who helped me on this one, and I'm looking forward to making sure that the city operate traffic in a safe and manner.
And I'm looking forward to seeing exactly how it's spent. I make a motion to approve.
Okay, so
second.
Okay, Ms. City Clerk, call the roll.
Councilmember Sanchez,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Ibarra,
Aye.
Councilmember Figueroa,
Yes.
Councilmember Surratt,
Yes.
Councilmember Reynoso,
Yes.
Councilmember Calvin. You're muted. Councilmember Alexander.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Okay, council. I think there's one more pull here. Item 20. Sir?
We've made it to the end of the road, folks. Thanks for bearing with me, San Bernardino. I guess it's more so a concern. I'm reviewing the charts, and I'm just very aware of the kind of money that comes from Orange County into San Bernardino. And so we gave it to an Anaheim developer. It was a $40,000 difference, and I believe, in getting the lowest bid, if it's done correctly. But I wanted to really ask, what kind of qualified them? Was it just a $40,000 kind of deduction that was in the selection process over the second, which is based in Corona, which is technically an IE-based firm?
So when you're doing public works project bids, we are required to issue to the lowest responsible bidder. So it truly is a price-based award when you're talking about a public works project per the Public Works Contracting Code.
That clarifies a lot, and I think people appreciate that.
If I could too, please just ask actually the city attorney. There are various. This is not an area where local preference can be entered in. It's this public works law dictates, in the state of California, dictates a lot of different things. But there are certain other areas, I think, where local preference can be considered, just not in public works. Is that correct, Cyan?
Yes, that is correct. Charter cities have a little more discretion. Counties have absolutely no discretion whatsoever. But we have to comply with our municipal code as written, and our code does require us to choose the lowest responsive and responsible bidder.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, City Clerk, call the roll.
Councilmember Sanchez?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Ibarra?
Aye.
Councilmember Figueroa?
Yes.
Councilmember Charette?
Yes.
Councilmember Reynoso?
Yes.
Councilmember Calvin?
Yes.
Councilmember Alexander?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
All right, council members, item number A on considerations for future meetings. Sir, go ahead.
Okay. One moment here, folks. Can we have, I know I requested this last time, Spanish, Vietnamese, American Sign Language translation? Can we have something prepared? Not necessarily to vote on, but we have a recommendation or an RFP put out. For that, I have questions about the intern policy. Could we have something formal prepared in regards to how we would like to include interns at the city level? I seek to employ, or not employ necessarily, but allow the opportunity for a lot of young people to get hands-on with this. And lastly, I'm hearing from my constituents. We have a lot of conversation around specific plans, and I appreciate it. It's important. But one that hasn't been considered is like a Vertimont specific plan. There's a ton of residential development there. There's a lot of people just have a lot of questions. Anywhere in the city they do, but in Vertimont in particular, people want to know what the heck's going on. And so I don't know what the exact step or the beginning of that process looks like, but if you could come back to me with something. That's it for me.
Mr. Field. Particularly, I think what's on the agenda tonight, Councilmember Reynoso, is we need to take a vote on what's printed on the agenda. So let's go ahead and do that. Ms. City Clerk, please call the roll on item number A. Either yay or nay, council members. The City Clerk will call the roll on that.
Councilmember Sanchez?
Well, for the public's sake, can we repeat what we're voting on? I know I get constituents telling me all the time. I don't know what you guys voted on.
This is regarding the ease and accessibility for public comments via bit.ly link and streamlined in Spanish and English.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Ibarra?
Can I ask a question on this before we complete the vote?
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Councilman Charette. Go ahead.
Why are we voting on something? Are we voting on whether to put it on a future agenda or what? What are we voting on?
Mr. City Manager?
This is under items to be considered for future meetings. This isn't a vote on whether we're going to do it or not. It ought to be coming back to us with a recommendation, costs, etc.
That's what's going to happen. That's what's going to happen.
Okay. Well, then why aren't we just moving it? Do we have to vote to move it forward?
Well,
yes.
Technically,
I
yes.
think one of the reasons that we have been proceeding this way is to make sure that if a council member has an item that they'd like to have, but the majority of the council is not interested in having staff use staff resources or bringing it back. This is an opportunity for at least the majority to say, we're not sure how we're going to decide yet. We need a lot more information, but this is worthy of our city staff working up the staff report and bringing it to us. I think that's the purpose for taking a vote on it. Not to approve it or to deny it, just simply to move it on to the next level. And this is at the discretion of the city manager.
But we need staff's input on whether or not, how much time this is going to take for them to do it before we can make that assessment. I think we ought to all be able to have staff to bring back just about, anything reasonable, but that's okay. I don't want to make a big mountain out of a molehill.
All right, Council, Ms. City Clerk, please continue to call the roll. Do you want to start over?
Mayor, I have a question.
Okay, go ahead, Councilmember.
Question for our city manager. How much advance notice do you need us to email you what we want to put on the agenda? Previously, we would do it under the items referred to committees section, but as of recently, these are being added, and I'd like guidance because I have items that I would like city staff to bring forth to the council as well.
Great question.
There's staff has written a document on how council members are to add items to the agenda to be voted on so that staff can dedicate time and bring back a full staff report to the council as a whole. That's been sent out to everyone now twice. Once in October, I get it. Council members weren't here, some of you guys. But then it was resent in, I think, January. And it lays out specifically deadlines, timelines, everything on how to add it. I know Councilmember Reynoso has utilized that, in fact, to get this item on the agenda. So I think maybe, City Attorney, if you could just resend that document so that we're all on the same page. I know I used it to add my my integrity standards to the discussion, but I think I think some council members aren't sure how to do that.
No, yes.
I mean, we have the section on the agenda called items to be referred to committee. That's why, and usually that's when we bring up items. So,
all right. So why don't we do this, council members? That concludes your questions. Councilmember Calvin has a question.
I have a statement because I'm not sure of the documents that you're speaking of, Councilmember Sanchez. I have not received either one of those documents, and in conversation with city manager, we were not given that direction as to how to put something on the agenda.
Okay, Ms. City Attorney. Oh, can I?
How about we let our city manager reflect and react to some of this? Rob, give us some overview here.
So my basic reaction to this is that the reason that the procedure was put in place in the first place was to ensure that we've had a history of having council members add items to the agenda without necessarily having any sort of consensus or even a majority of the balance of the council agreeing that that item should have been brought forward. So the purpose of this is to ensure that, because staff, we have limited staff, and there's a fair amount of staff time involved in every item that is brought to the council. So the purpose of the hoped for purpose of this procedure is to bring some order to it and to give the entire council the ability to weigh in on whether or not the city staff should invest the time and expense involved in preparing a staff report or a consent item. And they vary in complexity. I mean, some of these are fairly straightforward. Others are much more complex and costly, but regardless, it's important for the entire, because basically the rule is that individual council members cannot direct staff to do anything. The body of the council can. So that is, I think, sort of this goes to that principle. So that when any given council member makes a request of us, we have the established procedure to ensure some level of order and transparency associated with then following through and bringing the full-blown item forward to the full council. So that is the basic purpose behind this. And Councilmember Calvin, I apologize if you have not received that. I think it was, I do believe we've been attempting to incorporate it in the binder for new council members, but we will we'll double check and make sure. And in the meantime, we will certainly get you that the recommended procedure.
So, but that document was created, or is it not written inside the charter? Where's the literature at? Where's the document? Where's the language inside of the charter? Or do we just create this document to give direction to council how they would be able to put something on the agenda? And does the mayor have a different way of putting anything on the agenda? It just affects the council?
No, it affects everybody. I mean, that's the whole purpose of this. It's across. The mayor has certain latitude in certain things, but in general, this is designed to provide an equitable approach to putting items on the agenda.
Okay, well, yes, I would like to have that document, please, because I do not think that we've all been given the same information.
Okay, well, again, I apologize. We'll make sure you do it.
Okay, are we ready to vote? Council members, let's cast our vote. Ms. City Clerk, please continue the roll call.
Mayor, I have a question. If there's a roll call being taken, is there a motion that's being made?
Yeah, I guess procedurally, is there a motion for approval to add this item to future council meetings?
Move to approve.
I'll second.
Okay.
Councilmember Sanchez.
I feel silly asking for this again, but the public by now has already forgotten what we're voting on.
This is for Councilmember Reynoso's request on the agenda, item A.
Yes. So well, and that's for interpreting purposes, right? So that the council meetings are more accessible to people who speak a different language, primarily at home.
This one's just public comment. Can you read the letter up, City Clerk, please?
Ease and accessibility for public comments via Bitly link and streamlined in Spanish and English, which is on the agenda, but you added Vietnamese as well?
And American Sign Language. I don't know if that's possible for that, but I feel like that's a separate item, though. I'd like to. You separated it. I originally had asked for it to be like translation services for the entire meeting, with this being a component of it. But I think this is just a public comment. The streamline, making it like one click accessible. That's the intention here.
Mayor Pro Tem Ibarra.
Yes.
Councilmember Figueroa.
Yes.
Councilmember Shurat.
I'm going to vote no, only not because I just don't like this process at all. I think it'd be better if we discuss it further. So I'm going to vote no in this case and probably vote no on all. Not because I don't think they're valid or worthy, but I don't like the process that we're going through.
I agree with you on that part, Fred.
What's that?
I agree with you on that part. The process of this is ridiculous.
I think it needs further discussion on the process. So I'm going to vote no for now.
Councilmember Reynoso.
Yes.
Councilmember Calvin. I'm sorry, ma'am, I did not hear you. Is that a yes?
City Attorney, I'm having difficulty here. I'm not quite understanding what it is that we are doing and how we're to do it. With all the different information that has been given out to us on how to put things on the agenda, I'm not really understanding how, and like Fred says, not to disagree with what Councilmember Reynoso is presenting. We need this, yes, but is this the process or not?
Okay,
so have things added to the agenda.
So I get the acknowledgement of the chair. I'll briefly answer that as I recall and ask the city manager to jump in if my recollection is not correct. But back in October of 2020, the city manager asked for legal advice on what are the city's procedures, because some cities have a very complete procedure about adding items to the agenda in their charter. Some have provisions in the municipal code. Some people have norms. Some people have adopted resolutions. So I quickly looked at all of the things that I would normally look at, and I provided the city manager with some legal advice on what you had and what you didn't have. My recollection is that the city manager took that and prepared a document. And I want to say, city manager, I thought it was circulated to all of the council. And it was circulated to say, I, as the new city manager, after having gotten the legal advice from the city, this is how I would like to proceed. So he's using his city manager form of government and authority to do that. So I think the procedure you're seeing tonight is my understanding of that document he circulated. And city manager, do I have that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So I don't know if it was included in your notebook or not, but that I think that's the process that he's using, is the one that he had sent out to the council members.
And to be clear, I mean, we're open to other methodology. I mean, it was basically an effort, as I said, to try to accomplish a certain level of transparency and order and consistency in how items are added to the agenda. That was our only intent. Now, if we got it wrong, we're wide open, and we are open to suggestions. If there's a different methodology that the council would prefer, we're absolutely open to that.
Yeah, and I think what I've heard, city manager, just so that you understand, is I've heard that maybe some of our council members have heard different ways. So they're hearing some inconsistencies, and that's creating some confusion for them. So I think some of them have been told, this is how you do it, and then they might have been told, this is how you do it. And that's at least my understanding.
So one of the other items that got approved tonight is we're in the process of bringing forward a policy. We don't have one. And my experience is unique. Most places I've been, most places I've seen have some form of structure around how business is conducted. And we will be preparing that and bringing it forward. The whole thing is not going to come forward all at once. It'll be coming in bits and pieces. But this will be one of the policies that will be in there. And each one of these policies will be subject to council review and approval. We'll vote on all of them because it's the city council. The city policy manual is going to be adopted by the city council. So this will be one of the policies that will be included in the policy manual, but it is subject to review, discussion, debate, and modification. So we will ensure it is one of these things as I've come into this, as I came into the seat, there were just a number of things that had not historically, at least to my knowledge, been done. So I'm trying to establish a more orderly process and more consistency. And candidly, I feel badly about this discussion because our intention is to make this not be an issue of discussion. We want to resolve a lot of these things in advance, such that the council has a degree of certainty and comfort with the process that we are following for all kinds of different things, not just this, but all sorts of different things. So again, our apologies. We will endeavor to do better, and and as I said, we will be bringing a policy manual to you very soon. In the beginnings of one, there are a lot of different components to it.
So if I just might add one more thing, but the process that if we're utilizing the process that was instructed, then the items that I asked to be considered are not even mentioned in the minutes, nor are they listed here for us to be voting on tonight.
Yes, so city manager, are you adding these at your discretion? Because I know when we have our one-on-ones, I've also brought up certain issues and they don't come back before us.
Okay, so we're going to clarify the whole procedure. We'll bring the entire procedure back to you, and we will ensure that you are all treated equitably. If there have been some mistakes made, again, we're looking to rectify that. So you can look forward to seeing that procedure. Maybe even, we already have the procedure drafted, so we can convert that into a policy. We could bring it back as soon as the next meeting.
Okay, and if it was emailed to us, what was the title of the email so I can look it up?
Oh, I don't recall.
How to add items to the agenda.
I don't recall that one, but I'll look for it. Thank you.
Okay, Ms. City Clerk, we are attempting to conduct the roll call vote. We left off with Councilmember Ken Kelvin. Please continue to call the roll on this item.
Councilmember Kelvin?
Yes.
Councilmember Alexander?
Aye.
Okay, motion passes 6-1.
Item number B, Councilman Reynoso, the Community Benefits Agreement Workshop. A brief preview, and then we'll call the roll on it. Sir, go ahead.
I would like for the council, I would like for this to also be potentially open to the public, just so us as council members can make an informed decision on, or not a decision, but understand how to hold developers accountable in a plethora of ways. And this is a way that's been done successfully at Staples Center, the Los Angeles International Airport, LAX, when the international terminal was built at the airport. That's why if you've been in LA, the thick paned windows and annual research that's done for proximity of the impacts of development are to be held accountable strictly to the developer. And so I'd like us to be educated on that, because I'm, no offense to anybody, but I'm fairly confident it's not a common kind of understanding, especially in the Inland Empire and San Bernardino. So I propose that we hold a workshop for ourselves that is also viewable by the public.
Is that a motion, council member?
Is that your motion?
Motion to approve.
Okay.
Second.
Ms. City Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Sanchez.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Ibarra.
Aye.
Councilmember Figueroa.
Yes.
Councilmember Charette.
It's not a bad idea, but I can't support it. I need more information. No.
Thank you. Councilmember Reynoso.
Yes.
Councilmember Calvin.
Yes.
Councilmember Alexander.
Aye.
Motion passes 6-1.
Item number C, Councilmember Alexander is to bring back a staff report on the city's design standards for development. Sir, go ahead.
Yes, I would like the staff to update our city's design standards. After speaking with Director Huntley, and in light of us having more or forthcoming development, I would like to see our design standards raised from where they are now. I don't want San Bernardino or developers bringing us any secondhand or third-hand type of development just because they say we're San Bernardino. I'm saying that we need to raise our standards, and that by being our design standards, drought-tolerant designs, better material, stuff that will last longer, something that developers know that when they come to San Bernardino, they have to bring their A game and not their B or C game anymore. So I asked Mr. Huntley, hopefully everyone will see that when you come here with design standards that are important, also that they go into our our development code in our general plan as well. But for right now, I would like for them to move forward with an update.
Is that your motion, sir?
Yes.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, discussion. Seeing none? Yes, sir. Councilman Sanchez, go ahead, sir.
I know at least in last year, Mr. Mike Huntley has come before the council with amendments to the to our building standards. I would like to know from Mr. Mike Huntley if we're duplicating the same actions that we did a year ago by going over this again. But I would like his advice on this.
So for clarity for City Council, I think what Councilman Alexander is asking is, one, for staff to come back with at least a report that tells council, do we have a design review board? What are our standards like today, right? And then secondly, what he's looking at is updating what we have. And I think the appropriate time to do that is as we're updating the general plan. One of the components of that is going to be also to update the development code, and design guidelines will go hand in hand with that. But I think it's important for council to understand exactly where we're at today with what our code enforces that as relates to design standards. Those are different than the building code. The building code deals more with health and safety. Okay. The development code or zoning deals more with overall development standards and aesthetic standards. So
that's all I have.
Okay, there is a motion and a second. Ms. City Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Sanchez.
Yes.
Councilmember Mayor Pro Tem Ibarra. Councilmember Figueroa.
Yes.
Councilmember Charette. You're muted, Councilmember.
Sorry, same comment as last time with a no vote.
Councilmember Reynoso,
Yes.
Councilmember Calvin, Councilmember Alexander.
Aye.
Motion passes 6-1.
Okay, thank you very much, council members. That concludes our meeting tonight. I want to remind the public, please, we do have a special study workshop on February 11th. It begins at 5:30 p.m. And again, we thank our staff tonight and our city council members. Thank you. And this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.